You know how people are like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm just going to sell pictures of my feet online?
Yeah, I'm aware of this.
Yes. So the new version of that is I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to bully men into paying me online.
Hi, Daddy, it's me.
Oh, hi, Julia. How are you?
100,000? Like 100,000.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Anybody can teach you financial domination, but not everyone can show you how to make six figures.
Hi, I'm a financial dominatrix online, and if you are wanting to get into it, you're curious, but you're not sure, I want you to watch this video.
For starters, you don't find pay pigs find you.
Today, we are talking about the world of financial domination. What is it? Who takes part in it? Is it having a moment on TikTok right now? What are the criticisms with it? And most importantly, we are going to get to know some people who are actively taking part in financial domination.
Bitch, what I was trying to say is this situation got me so wet and so dry at the same time. Exactly.
What's up, bitches? Welcome back to another episode of So Wet, So Dry. I'm one of your hosts, Fiji, like the island, like the water. I am loving being single right now, and I work in social media and marketing.
And I'm your other host, Autumn, like the season. Fiji and I are spending New Year's in the city that we first met in, and I work in entertainment. If you guys are new here to So Wet, So Dry, what we do is we explore duality through deep diving topics about sex, relationships, and personal identity, all where internet trends and reality collide. We post polls on our Instagram at So Wet So Dry. The O's are zeros every single week, so you guys can participate in the episode, submit listener stories, and all that good stuff. So make sure you're following us on Instagram. And also subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify. We are small creators and we're still trying to grow. And we will know if you subscribe or follow, and it will mean so much to us. You can also like the video on YouTube, leave a comment, keep the conversation going. As always, that's the most important thing to us. Or you can give us a rating on platforms like Spotify, Amazon, and written reviews on Apple.
Yes, and make sure you guys stay tuned to the end of the episode where we wrap up with what we're so wet, so dry, and still a little bit confused about the topic, because it is okay to still be confused.
So as mentioned, we are going to be talking about the world of financial domination. We had seen this been trending on TikTok. The hashtags are going crazy on Findom. A lot of people are trying it out for the first time. So we're going to break it down and we're going to hear from some people that have experience in this very form of sex work. I have never done anything like this. I definitely have like somewhat of a humiliation kink, which is in the world of financial domination. But personally, I don't have any like first person experience to offer with this. So that's why we're going to go to sex workers that have it.
Yeah. And you would never do it because of the money part, or because you don't want to be the dom, or?
Yeah, it's because I don't want to be the dom. And like, I do feel like there's like to have that kink, like obviously the submissive person is like they get off on like their money being taken. Like I personally don't think that turns me on to like take someone's money in like a dominating way. And like some crazy shit does turn me on, like things that are all sorts of fucked up. So it's not like, it's not that, it's just like it just doesn't do it for me. And like I don't like to be in a dominant position ever. Yeah, but I think it's really hot, like, for sure.
I mean, and it's money. That's the only reason I did it. Like, and I wouldn't even necessarily call it financial domination, more dominatrix type shit, because it was more like his kink was more he wanted to be, like, degraded, told his dick was small, like, told other shit like that, and he would pay me. But he would be iffy about the payments, and I would have to, like, harass him to, like, pay me on time and shit. Right. So it was definitely not giving that like his kink was sending me money. I mean, a little bit, because his kink was also that, like, he'll never have the chance to fuck me. Like, I'm so great, and, like, he's so unworthy. Mm-hmm. But, like, it was much more the, like, degrading, subservient type of thing. But I didn't get off on it. Like, I don't find it sexy at all. I don't mind being a dom in some senses, but, like, that to me is not, like, it doesn't turn me on. But financially.
Yeah. Exactly. If you guys don't know, financial domination, like we said, there's a dominant role and there's a submissive role. And the dominant person is oftentimes humiliating this person, but the biggest thing is the sub gets off on the dom asking repeatedly for more money and taking advantage of them in terms of money, whether that's like sending gifts, actual money, like some doms are literally written on some subs' wills, like all forms of financial gains. So looking online, some other words for a financial submissive are cash piggy, fin sub, human ATM, money slave, or pay pig. And for the dominant role, there's Findom, goddess, money dom, like DOMME, money master, money mistress, or cash master. The world of financial domination mainly exists on the internet and what they call a distant domination. Not to say that doms and subs never meet up. It absolutely can happen, but it is more on the rare side. Like this very much takes place online, places like Twitter and like other chat bot services. It mostly is like you never meet them face to face unless specifically requested, but it's more rare. It's also important to note that it's in the world of BDSM. So BDSM is like a really big umbrella term for a lot of different kink play and things like that. So it does take place in this world. And again, just like with CNC, there's low forms of it and then there's extreme forms. It's not always like super degrading and literally draining all of someone's money. Of course it is sometimes, but it's not always that extreme in every single case. And it's also important to note that all genders and all people take part in this. It's not always a male sub, female dom, but that is what you see a lot on the internet and like in this age of TikTok where like a lot of sex workers are on social media talking about their experiences, which like we didn't really see that before TikTok as much.
Yeah.
But that is kind of what you see in the mainstream.
Yeah. And in terms of gender roles, it kind of makes sense too for the sub to be a man because of the whole success object thing that we kind of talked about in our Gender Wars timeline episode. And I was just going to say too, isn't it like, it's less about sex. It's more like flirting or just like dominating them with like words and stuff like that. But like the kink is that they love to give money or love you to like take their money and then they might jerk off to it later or something. But they don't really,
Exactly. And we're going to talk about that a little bit because a lot of times people like to say these types of forms of sex work because there is rarely any actual sex quote unquote. Yeah. It's not sex work and like people make those judgments and like say those criticisms. We're gonna get into it. I know you're gonna like that part, babe. But yes, like essentially it's like from a lot of the interviews I watch too, it's like, you know, he might be jacking off. He probably is, but do I know that he is? No, because he's not telling me. And like maybe for some people it's true, but yeah, like it's really not about sexual favors. Like it's really not transactional in the way where it's like there's sexual favors and money. It's like, it's just the kink is being satisfied. Like the subs really just want to be taken advantage of financially and the dom does that. And so it's transactional in like a different way that people aren't as comfortable with, I guess.
Yeah, because I feel like there's definitely like crossover, right? Because I'm like, in saying that, I don't think what I did was Findom at all, but I've seen Findom goddesses post like with their feet kind of like whatever. So it's like sometimes it'll be like, you know, you might have a dom sub BDSM kink and then also Findom. Like it's like both kind of intersecting.
Exactly. There is a lot of feet stuff that I read about that takes place too. Like, because sometimes it's like you're not in person, but you're on webcam. So it's like you're still not, and not everyone, but like that is another aspect of it is like you're not face to face or in the room. You're just like verbally degrading someone on a webcam. We're going to see some examples of that in this episode. But a quote that I really liked from this Vice article to kind of just like put us in the mind space of what financial domination really is and not just what you see on TikTok. So this quote I really liked from Psychology Today is kind of going to get us in that mind space of this is what financial domination really is and not what it's portrayed as on TikTok. So, a dom who calls herself Mistress Madeline said in an interview with the program Vice that she thinks of her role as a sort of psychological art form, developing an effective online persona over 10 years of doing this work. She says, it's easy to put someone in a submissive position and fuck them. But to mind fuck somebody, you really have to get in their head and understand where they're coming from and what makes them tick. So what I got from this, it's like people that do financial domination for like 10 plus years, 5 plus years, 3 years, like that is their career, that is their money. Like, it's not like everyone just wants the same thing. It's like every sub is like completely different. And like you have to work to find out like those like kinks that they have, the specific psychological stuff that she's talking about. So when I saw that, I just like looked at it completely differently. I'm like, wow, it really is a psychological art form. Because at the end of the day, like humiliation, like you can say like you're unworthy, like you're a hopeless little slut, like all the basic shit. But to really hit, like what if someone was degrading you and like it was like real shit, like they got to know you, like that's next level, bitch. And I feel like if you have a client for like a year, 2 years, like you're gonna have to like really like go in there, you know, have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and it makes sense because I feel like with all types of BDSM dom sub relationships, there is that psychological aspect, like you're talking about, like going a layer deeper, but you also have the sexual layer to balance it versus this is just like all psychological. And it also, like, reading that, it's like, this is why it's so important that it's in the space of kink where it's like two consenting of individuals or whatever, because you read something like that outside of it and you're like, oh my God, this is like narcissism, mind games, like manipulation type shit, you know? But it's consensual, so.
And it's like they want it, exactly. But I know, out of place, it seems like literally crazy.
Yeah.
So this article from Days Digital, I really liked too. And just like talks a little bit about like the experience again, but just like opening our minds to like the reality, because I'm sure you guys have seen stuff on TikTok like I have, and I wasn't looking for it. So let's just get to the facts. Many submissive males want to experience not only the loss of control, Findom goddess Saffron explains, but the adrenaline surge and exhilaration of handing over cash to an attractive, powerful, and confident woman. I provide them with a means to live out their fantasy while they fund my luxury lifestyle, which in return gives them even more pleasure. So it's like going deeper, like not only is it just a successful, confident woman, but it's like she's also like bougie as fuck. Like she has like a really high bar. So it's like that's even more degrading in a sense. And like I said, despite not always involving sexual activity or nudity, financial domination is still regarded as sex work by those in the industry, and a lot of people get confused about that. Goddess Asari explains, a lot of people want to say that Findom is not sex work because we're not always taking our clothes off, but it is because the men are turned on by spending that amount of money, so you have to turn them on. It's not just fucking pay me, it's really getting to know someone and understanding their kinks and fetishes. Financial domination is the ultimate form of submission because what's more submitting than giving someone financial stability?
Yeah. No, I love that because I feel like it's true. Like looking at sex as just something to take your clothes off is such a narrow way of looking at it. But it's like kinks are psychological. They are like outside of just like fucking like dick, pussy, like whatever.
I know.
So,
and as we've been talking about, like people don't even like know the full definition of sex to begin with. They don't look at sex like it could be a job. So it's like, of course, if there's no quote unquote sex involved, they're going to be like, that's not sex work. You know, it's like, because they just don't.
Because people are just so narrow minded when it comes to this stuff.
Exactly. So it's nothing new. And we've talked about this in a lot of episodes, and it just continues to like ring true.
But I feel like that's another reason. On one side, it's like people will not look at it as sex work, as like, oh, you're not part of the sex work community. But on the other side, because so many people are against sex work and like, oh, you're fucking for money, look down on that. People who are like, I don't know what the word is, like, don't like sex workers or think that they're wrong, could get into Findom and like hate on like, sex workers.
No, exactly.
Other sex workers, you know?
Because I think in the rise of TikTok and all these people being like, oh, I'm going to try it out, but they're not like, they haven't been in the industry. They haven't like really gotten to know like all that the work is. So it's like the new people that are saying that. Exactly. And then people that have been in the industry and like feel confident in their skin that they're a sex worker and like can understand that Findom is sex work. They're like, what the fuck? Like,
and respect other sex workers because it's all kink. It's all, you know, one's not better than the other.
No.
It's all sex work. Yeah.
Exactly. One of our listeners actually submitted a story. So they said, my friend made her money as a dom full time. She would humiliate men through text, and she made this one guy throw away all his food and eat from soup cans, constantly degrading him. So y'all obviously know people that are doing this, which is super cool. Thank you for sharing.
I love this too because it shows, like, I feel like with Findom, like, you have to be creative. And that's one of the things that, like, when I was doming that dude, like, just through text and, like, voice memo, and we had FaceTimed, like, a couple times, but it's, like, I'm like, you can only say, like, you're so pathetic, your dick is so small, like, whatever, like, so many times. Like, you have to become more creative because so much of it is your words and so much of it is psychological.
Dude.
So it's like coming up with the soup cans, like, that's creative as fuck.
Exactly. And, like, what if he, like, was poor when he was little and, like, all he could eat is soup? So it's, like, even more
You gotta
degrading.
dig
Like,
in there.
you don't know. Like, that sounds so fucked up again, but, like, in a kink consensual space, I mean. But yeah, like, I think about people I've sexted. Like, after 2 weeks, I'm like, bye. Like you know what I mean? Like,
no, because
it gets boring.
sexting is, like, hard sometimes because it's like, bro, like, and especially through text, like, when they're not sending pictures or, like, even if they are sending pictures and videos and stuff, it's, like, hard to know, like, when they came or, like, whatever, and, like, what you're supposed to, like,
bro.
And, like, typing a message while you're also, like, masturbating. It's just, like, bro. Like,
and it's, like, and filming yourself, too, and it's, like, sending voice memos, but, like, what if I sound, like, too airy and breathy, or what if I don't sound it enough? Yeah, and then it's like I'm listening to my own sex. I don't really want to be doing that. Like
this is
me?
too overthought.
So
right
like,
now.
yeah, it's a lot of fucking work, and like not all
Yeah.
sex work is fucking physical. Like even strippers in the club, like it's fucking psychological.
I mean, I would say
too.
like, yeah, most of the job. I mean, it's like a good
All
portion
up
of it
here.
is physical because it's like you're walking in the heels, you're dancing, you're on the pole, like all of that. But I feel like a good portion of all sex work is really talking.
Bro, because how are you going to get them into VIP to give them a dance if you don't talk
and
to them?
keep milking it.
Like it's literally all of that, bro. It's in the
sales.
eyes and it's in the brain. But I sound crazy. Let's go back. But someone also submitted a story that said, someone I know recently made the observation that marriage is even sex work. And like, what do you think about that?
Okay, low-key, this is actually one of my friends that I was out with the other night. And they were like, did you see what I submitted? Let's talk about it. And I was like, sure, tell me more.
Yeah,
and so,
you love that shit.
Right. They said, they were like, because marriage is a contract, right? And like you're financially like tied together.
Okay.
And like I've seen this and we've even talked about it with like sugar babies or hypergamy and stuff like that. Like that is, to a point, it becomes sex work because if you're getting into a marriage just for those financial reasons, then I think it is sex work, you know? Like you're making a contract.
If you're in love with someone and you get married for that, then that's not.
Then I don't think so, no.
Okay, I agree.
Like, yeah, but I feel like, I don't know, because even, I guess
the idea of marriage is like, I mean, we really talk about the history of marriage and like why people got married in the first place.
Right.
Yeah, bitch, it's fucking sex work for sure.
And then thinking about sex as labor, because even the what is it? Adrienne
Marie Brown.
Yeah, the pleasure activism. But I'm like, it's not always labor, right? Because like, if you love someone, like sex isn't labor, like whatever.
Like you want.
But it's like, if you have like solidified this contract in these roles, and like I think it can turn into sex work where it's like you're giving sex to him and he's giving something to you. It becomes transactional.
Right.
I don't know.
Or it can become transactional.
It can. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. I've never looked at it like that. Like I've looked at marriage like it's so fucked up like kind of my whole life just because like I do kind of know the history behind it, and like I had 2 moms, so I was
and
like,
your
I
parents
don't know,
are divorced
like,
too.
Yeah, so I was like, fuck that shit, exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I've never looked at it like it could be sex work, but it's like that did open my eyes because I think it really can, and especially in the ages of like hypergamy and all of those things, like, absolutely.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before. Like, these bitches that are just going on dates or looking for a guy just to pay for all their stuff. Like, you're not
like, that's
dating.
sex work,
You're doing
sweetheart.
sex work.
For
you know
sure.
what I'm saying?
If
You're
this-
not
we're-
dating. You're
Yeah, and we're talking about this as like a psychological and communicative art form. What the fuck is that? Like, you're getting them to, like, fall in love with you so they can pay for this stuff.
Right.
The doms are, like, learning their kinks and being creative so they can get money and, like, everyone's fucking satisfied. Like, it's the same shit.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
So, moving on to the first poll we asked y'all for this episode, we said, have you ever done Findom? Participated in either side? And only 18% of our audience said yes, they have. And the majority, 82%, said no. So, majority of you guys haven't done this. So, then we asked, do you know anyone who does? And a little bit more, 32% said yes, and 68% said no. So, still the majority. And then we asked, would you give it a try? And the majority said no, 64%. 25% said yes, though, and 11% said maybe. So if you add yes and maybe together, that's 36%. Like, that's a little bit higher. Quick math, bitch. Quick math. I'm good at adding, and you're good at subtracting. I can't subtract for shit. But anyway.
We're both bad at percentages. But
Yep. But I feel like it is, like, a rather intense form. Like, an intense kink, for sure. And, like, I remember when we did our CNC polls, like, people didn't really know what it was and, like, didn't do it. And although I do feel like that one's more popular just because it's, like, lower forms of it, like, it does make sense to me that the majority of people listening, like, haven't done it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I do think it's just, like, a little bit more intense. It's, like, real life shit, you know?
I was actually surprised. I thought more people would do it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, especially from the dom side of things and, like, women.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know. Especially because all
or
this
it's like
talk
they
about
don't
just
know
wanting
they're
to use
doing
men
it.
for money. Yeah, exactly. So I was honestly surprised. I thought more people would say yes. But there were, at least in my polls on my story, there were a good amount of cis heterosexual men that voted. And they were like, fuck no. So
Right. Okay. Exactly. But someone submitted a story as well and said, I'm a black woman and this white man had this kink. I couldn't bring myself to do it. And obviously honestly, power to you, because sometimes when you like someone, they have a certain kink. Like, even if you're not 100% down, you might be inclined to be like, oh, let me just try it. But like, when it comes to kink, like, boundaries, knowing your limits is, like, literally fucking everything. And obviously, I feel like this makes complete sense, you know? I wouldn't want to do it either.
But I think the race thing is, because, like, I listened to a Horrible Decisions episode just about, like, dom, sub, BDSM regular.
Right.
And it was a black woman, and she was talking about how the majority of her subs were white men. And with Findom, I think it is that way as well. Like, it's this weird, like, I don't know if it's fetishy or, like, you know, what's going on, but there definitely is a race aspect.
Yeah, in a lot of the research, it is a lot of, like, dom, femme, black women.
Yeah.
And a lot of, like, white older men. And, like, it also, like, youth kind of plays a part to it, too. Like, I do feel like a lot of times the submissive men are, like, a lot older, you know? Like, kind of thinking about that stereotypical,
is it, like white
sugar
guilt
daddy.
and, like, reparations
I mean, that's
like,
great if it is, honestly. Like I don't know.
Low-key, honestly,
I don't know. But I also watch videos of, like, young college men doing this and being doms.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
They have
just
to be
wait
in a
until you pay that clip, bro.
bracket.
You're gonna be
Interesting.
gagged.
Okay.
But now we're gonna move on to sort of this Findom TikTok era. A lot of people online say it's an easy route to make money, similar to OnlyFans. Just fucking get the shit, buy an outfit, post online, you're gonna be rich.
Or buy my course.
Or buy my course. Exactly. And there's a lot of that going on too. Like, there's talks, like, there's a new job, which is like a sex work counselor that, like, wasn't a thing until recently.
It's like the
at
life
least not
coach
online.
thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's all for monetary gain, and it's like, can some of it be good? Like, can some of it be, like, an actual, like, industry professional, like, teaching people? Like, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But it just gets a little wishy-washy. But yeah, and the how-tos on TikTok. We talk a lot about on this channel how like we're not a how-to account because we feel very strongly that there shouldn't be how-to sex work accounts necessarily unless they're real and authentic, and like most times they're not. So
yeah, because it's a very fine line, right? Because it's like even like marketing or sales or how to be an influencer or a relationship coach, like so much of that has popped up in the influencer era, and they all sell a course or they sell an ebook and like whatever, and like maybe 5%, 10% of those are actually like good information, but a lot of them are just ChatGPT. They're just basic level information. But the worst thing is the marketing. They promise they're gonna make you this much money. And it just gives very much, Andrew Tate, like our last episode, sprinkle, like gives a little scammy.
And that is the scary part of AI, is like AI definitely is increasing scammers so much fucking harder.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like
they don't have to work.
So much harder to tell too, because AI does feel so humanized. But yeah, I completely get what you're saying. And I do think it's like, it is an important part of the conversation. Like not only are people online like talking about how to do this, like they're actually taking people's money and being like, this is how you do it, when you can just Google it and it'll come up like the same shit. So it's just like,
we talk about all the time like how there needs to be more education just in the field of relationships and like sex and kink in like general, and also sex work. So it's like part of me is like, it would be great to be in a classroom full of people with a professor and like learning this stuff in that way. But I feel like it just comes down to like researching who you're actually like spending your money on doing that with, and like their background and all of that, because it could be something that's great. And I'm not saying like all of that education is bad. Like ideally it'd be awesome, but
that's something we argue for all the time.
Yeah.
Like that is all I want. And it's like, we are so happy that like sex workers are online and like sharing their experiences and like doing all of these things. But unfortunately, it's like the scams are out there, and like there are people that are like taking advantage of people that like maybe genuinely want to get into sex work and are going to be like led down a dangerous path low key because they don't have the right information.
Or don't even want to. And like someone who doesn't want to do sex work doesn't think Findom is sex work, and then ends up sending pictures and doing all this stuff and then regretting it later because they just needed a side gig. Like,
yeah, there's definitely a lot of that going on right now. But yeah, we're gonna watch 2 TikToks back to back, just like different experiences people have had with this.
We're gonna talk about how the girlies can get richer. All right, because if I can do it, you can do it.
Okay, so I saw this video and I immediately got pulled in because as soon as someone says, if I can do it, you can do it, I get the ick, because that's usually not the reality for most cases in personal finance. And to no surprise, she was actually promoting selling her own course in something called Findom. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's when you are essentially mean to men and they give you money. And if you're thinking, Alyssa, I don't know why you're making this video, this sounds great, I have a story time for you. I've been a creator in the personal finance space since 2015, and I used to spend a majority of my time on Twitter, where once to twice a week I would get messages asking me about Findom. Some of them, most of them, were much creepier than this one. And I would never respond. I mostly just took screenshots, sent them to my friends, except once. One time I jokingly was like, maybe I'll just send my PayPal link and see what happens. So I did. That's all I did. Just drop my PayPal link in the chat. And within 15 minutes, this person I did not know sent me $20. And their real name was attached to their PayPal account because legally it has to be. Because I like to know everything. I googled them. I found something. Turns out they were an ex-cop that was let go for child luring. Awesome. I obviously did not accept the money. I blocked the person right away, but they went on to create more and more accounts, find my personal Facebook, and continue to harass me. Got real scary real fast. So while I am all about people making all kinds of money any way they can, I also want women to protect themselves and make sure they're safe. So before you go taking advice from a stranger on TikTok, especially someone telling you you're gonna make bank by doing something that's actually very risky, just sit with it for a minute.
I recently accidentally became a dominatrix. I started dating this guy who found my TikTok, and it wasn't even like the dating content that he found me by. He found a manifestation video, and like the manifestation video. And he's like really cute and my age. So I started to date him like normally. And it turns out that's what he's into. So I've been like, okay, I'll try that out. And it turns out I'm into it too. But it would make sense that I'm into it. If you're not new here, it makes sense that I'm into it. But now it's like unlocking this whole different part of my brain. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to date any other way than this. Honestly, I don't know. I think his case is like a little more extreme. Maybe not, but it's like a Findom situation. But he's like, I think he's really hot, but he just wants me to Find on him. And stuff relating to that. So now I'm like, gosh, do I need to make a Twitter and do this? Because it makes sense that I would be a dominatrix. It makes sense that I would attract men who were into that kind of thing. I just thought it was, loving and spoiling and praising women, which that's still the case, but apparently there are extremes to that I wasn't fully aware of, but I'm into. I don't know, do you guys have any experience with this?
Okay, so for the first TikTok, this makes a lot of sense to me because I feel like it is a common scam. And I used to get messages like this too. Like, I feel like around the time that sugar daddies, pay pigs, like, started to trend, and not even everybody knowing exactly what they are. Like, you would get the scam DMs from random accounts that would be like, I want to bless you with $600 a week. Are you looking for a sugar daddy? Whatever. And they're all fucking scams. And I feel like at this point, most of us know that. Like, we've, moved past that same fucking copy and pasted Instagram message with the PayPal and like blah, blah, blah. But I do feel like to a point, Findom, and because it's trending so much, especially on TikTok, like, can run risk for that because it is in a lot of ways the perfect sex work side gig that a lot of people don't think is difficult, don't think requires you taking your clothes off, whatever. And so it's like the easy toe in, just like how in our sugar dating episode, how so many women were like, oh, I can just find a sugar daddy. And they get into it so naively.
Exactly. Babe.
So I get that. But like I don't know, like her talking about like the thing I didn't like is like the risky and like, I feel like it's weird to label it as a whole, Findom as a whole, like doing the Findom itself and as a kink and as a job and like all of that is not inherently risky. Like, it's a job, like it's a consensual situation, but it's something you have to think about. Like, it's something that you have to build content about, get clients around, like whatever. So
yeah, it's like I knew something about me, like something about that video rubbed me a little bit wrong, but like I couldn't quite like put my finger on it because it's like I do think like a lot of jobs are risky. Like, sex work can definitely be risky. Like, it's our bodies that we're using, it's our minds, it's our souls. Like, anything like that is going to be risky. But I think the way she said it, and she's not a sex worker, that's what's just kind of like, okay, like, you did have a rough experience, but at the end of the day, like, you're good. You know what I mean? Like, I know it can get scary, but I just think it's like harmful because we want people to see sex work like in a positive way where like it is actually work. And like when these things trend and it's trends as something easy and like a quick way to make money, it kind of like diminishes like what sex work really is, because it is hard work and it is a lot on you, and it's like you're most of the time you have a whole different persona. Like, it's a lot and it's not easy. And we want people to look at sex work like it is something that's credible and hard, and like these people are fucking productive as fuck. And it's like, by doing this on TikTok, oh, it's so easy, just do it. It like ruins hopes of that happening. So yeah, and I do think it's good that she said, like, don't listen to people on the internet, because that's true. And, like, you can listen to people on the internet, but you just need to be very careful and not take what they say as godly. Like, they could be wrong, you know? It's like, you need to fact check people. It's not, like, to be afraid of the internet and, like, not listen to anyone, but it's, like, it can't be the end-all, be-all. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's not blaming the Findom community. It's blaming the scammers. Like, let's differentiate
like,
that.
you can get scammed in so many other jobs, too. And it's like, this person, like, at the end of the day, like, she got a message that was likely scam-like and decided to reply to it. Like, sex workers that are actually in the industry, like, even, like, OnlyFans girls, that it's like, that's their full-time job. Like, they're not just going to talk to...
And it's rare that they, like, seek you out. Like, honestly, the guy that I dom...
when do they seek you out,
I knew him personally from, like, a past experience. Like, I knew him personally from a different place that I lived. And so, like, when he messaged me, like, I want you to degrade me, I'm like, I know who you are. I've met you in person,
that's
like, whatever.
Crazy.
But
like,
it's way more rare for, like, a random, unless you have a big following or, like, something like that. Like, it's way more rare for that to just happen in general. So I feel like you should always assume that it's probably a scam and, like, look into it regardless every time. And then really think about it, you know? Like, that's just like the common scam right now is like, can I paint a mural of you? Like, we're not looking at the artist community like, oh my God, like, blame the artist community. Like, no, it's the scammers. Like,
I know. And it's like, when you think about it, it's like, she's like, I replied to the scam like message, and then he ended up being what? Like, someone, like a criminal, ex-criminal or something?
Ex-cop.
And then it's like, okay, sex work is risky. But it's like, no, you just replied to a scam message. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but like, Like, I'm like, stop labeling. Yeah. So I don't know.
It's not the community. It's that.
But it wasn't horrible. And the second one,
Yeah, the second one, I had seen this one. She's one of the we've had her videos in our episodes before.
Yeah, she looked familiar.
She's a big influencer. She talks about feminism a lot. But yeah, the second one, this is like a different experience, right? Because she's actually dating this guy. Like, she has feelings for him. She finds him attractive. Like, she's into him. And then it moved beyond just the mutual interest, and then this is his kink. So it's even more beneficial because it's like she's not getting into it in a sense of like, oh, like, I've decided this is my job. This is what I'm going into. These are like the people I'm building relationships with. She's like, oh, this is someone I already like. And
it kind of blew my mind. Like, when you research financial domination, like, this is not an often thing that like you see happen.
Right.
But, like, I think it's really cool. And, like, it makes me think of, like, sometimes I would, like, meet, like, some of my regulars, like, at the strip club. And I was, like, I would actually go on a date with this guy. Like, but it's, like, I would be, like, we could never date, though, because, like, we met here and, like, whatever. But it's, like, when you're, like, in, like, the sex work space, it's, like, these things can happen. Like, especially if you're getting to know people. But it's interesting that it's like they were just, and like that is his kink within relationships because a lot of.
And that's why I'm like, is it I mean, I guess it's probably like the lines blurring, like I said with the like a degradation stuff as well, because it's like if they're dating, I would assume they probably have some sort of sexual relationship, and there's more than just her being like, give me the money. So part of me thinks maybe she's more of a brat, or maybe she's more of like a.
That's hot.
You know what I'm saying? Like a bratty, like, send me money for my whatever. Versus, like, you know, because he's probably not, like, a complete
it's maybe it's, like, it's interesting. It's, like, what, does it matter what the relationship is? Because, like I said, most of it is online. Like, they're not seeing each other. They're webcamming maybe. But sometimes you do meet up, and it's, like, feelings can develop from there. But it's, like, what if you get into a relationship with someone just, like, someone's, like, oh, like, I have a CNC kink, like, I have a voyeurism kink, they're like, I have a financial domination kink. It's like, that was, like, I didn't find as much. Like, mostly it's, like, sex work, transactional, that sort of thing. Like, and also I found a lot that it's, like, some, like, the doms have a boyfriend or have a girlfriend. Like, they literally have a relationship that exists out of this, and that is, like, their work relationship. And it's like the sub knows that he's cool with it. Sometimes
they
like,
get off on it because they're like,
and
I
they
can
like
never
it.
have you.
Some people
and you have this beautiful, luxurious life thing while I'm draining my bank account and eating out of soup cans.
And some subs will like literally buy presents for not just the dom, but the dom and the dom's partner. And some subs only want to be with a dom that has a partner, no single doms. Like they need
because they're cucks probably too,
and that's what they would say.
Crossover,
there's so much crossover with this shit for sure. But now, quick, we're gonna watch 2 more TikToks and then talk about them.
Okay, this is how you get into findoming. Essentially, I've been a professional spoiled brat, total mean girl bitch, professionally. For 3.5 years, I made over $700K now from it. I honestly think the girls who are just talking about how to get into it are leaving out a lot of really important information because, guys, the reason I created Findom Fast Track in the community is because when I started this, I got taken advantage of. I ended up wasting my time on clients that I did not need to. Like, there are clients out there who will send you $800, $1,000, $2,000 just by telling them more. Do it again. You're so addicted to hot brats.
Oh, you're fine. You have random man paying your bills. Do you think these random men fall from the sky? Do you think there's a tree where I just go and I pick one off for the day, each and every day a new one? It's a job, a full-time job, a hustle, a finesse. And you have to be damn good at it too. Don't ever think for 1 second that this is the easy route. There is many an easier route that I could have taken. Getting money from random men for doing absolutely nothing for it is an art form. And all of my girls that do this know that. So please don't ever think that I have it easier than you when I don't. And a huge part of that is actually posting the kind of stuff that I do. What many people don't realise is you might think that I'm trying to flex or be the big I am when I post a random man bought me this, a random man sent me this. That is part of the job, because what it does is it allows other men who want to be generous and want to give to come towards me. It fills up my inbox with men that want to be the same sort of financially provider. I'm not sure that last sentence made sense, but you know what I mean. It's a whole job. It's a damn job, okay?
I'm going to talk about the second one first because first of all, I love her. And like,
Yeah,
exactly,
thank
like
you.
even her saying like doing nothing and getting paid by these men is an art form. Like, it's not even her really doing nothing. It's the fantasy and the illusion to
She's
them
doing a lot.
that she's doing nothing, but she's posting this content, taking the content. She's knowing what to say to them. Like, it's work and it's a job. And exactly, like, people, if you just come across a Findom account and you see her posting, like, look at this Birkin he just bought me, whatever, you're going to be like, oh my God, like, this is so cool. I need to get into it. But it's like, it's not even her romanticizing it or glamorizing it. It's her literally working.
Yeah.
Because exactly, that's what attracts them. That's the marketing. Like,
and that blew my mind. Like, I didn't even think of that because I think a lot of people think, oh my God, I need to get into that. And then I think a lot of people think, like, that's fucking obnoxious. Like, you're parading all this shit around that your whatever got for you. But it's like, I had never looked at it like, well, actually, that attracts more clients. Like, it's not because I'm like, oh, look, Instagram. Like, I have a fucking, you know? Like, it's
and
because they're actually, like, you know, and I, like, didn't even think of that for real.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that the other day recently, because have you seen, like, Cooking with Kaya?
I think so. Is that a TikTok
Cooking with
or no?
Kaya.
Or
Cooking with Kaya. It's
No.
this girl that has this TikTok account, and she lives in, like, a pretty regular apartment, and she cooks food. That's her
Okay.
whole thing. But she'll be like, cooking with Kaya.
Yeah.
And, like, kind of twerk, and then, like, make the food. But, like, her whole thing is being like, you better cook for your man, otherwise I will. Like, I'm going to steal your man. I'm going to do whatever. And it reminded me of Bonnie Blue and this whole idea, right? Because it's like, I don't know if she does OnlyFans or porn or something like that, but, like, all the women on TikTok right now hate her. All the men love her. But it's like, you know, her audience is men, and she's degrading women to get men. And it's like, we have to remember, social media is performance and it's marketing. And I hated her when I first saw her shit because, again, it's like the Bonnie Blue conversation of like, oh, you have to do this shit because if you don't, like, I will, and your husband will cheat on you and da-da-da. That's very much what Cooking with Kaya gives. It's like, you
because
need
men
to do this.
love women misogynists.
Oh, they love that shit. But I'm like, part of me, because I was hating on it, and then part of me is like, as a pro sex worker that's for I don't know if she does OnlyFans and like whatever. A part of me is like,
but regardless, we're talking about the blurred lines. Like, if she's like, you know, whatever.
Yeah, you know, so it's like the same with this is like people come across the content and don't know that her predominant audience is men, and it's not for girls to show off this, that, the other thing. It's for men, and it's like kink is a different space where you don't have to be as politically correct, like blah blah whatever. But yeah, for the second one, I had watched this before, and like she sells a course too, so part of me is a little bit like iffy, and I remember looking. Yeah, I looked at her page, I looked at her website, all of that, because I was trying to like get if it was like legit or not.
Yeah.
But the thing that I liked about her specifically that she said that made me trust her more, whether I should or shouldn't, and I'm not saying like if you guys are into this to go check her out, do your own research, because this was like a top level glance. I wasn't looking at it in those ways. But like I liked in the TikTok how she said something about how she like got into this, lost all her money, fucked up her finances, whatever. So like part of me was like, okay, like maybe she's actually, you know, the financial advice side of things to me makes a little bit more sense, like managing your money. And like
she
whatever.
actually did lose money, right?
Yeah, it's like a unique experience where I'm like, okay, like this seems like a little bit more legit than just like, I know everything and I made so much money and I'm going to help you do it too. She's like, no, I fucked up and I made some mistakes, but this is what I learned. And like,
yeah, that's
so
definitely a more slightly genuine approach. And like, no matter if she's like doing this in an ethical way or not, like I do think that that is a green flag because exactly. And it's like, we don't know. She could be lying, but it's like, I want to choose to like believe the best in people. Like, I don't want to be so pessimistic because it's like, I don't want to silence like sex workers' voices like ever. But it's like, yeah, you just have to do more research. Or prevent
them from like graduating too, because it's like if a sex worker is retiring, especially as they get older and they just don't have like the physical energy anymore. They don't want to do that. The next step would be to teach about it or to like be an advisor and stuff like that. So like the moving up in the chain kind of situation too. Like I want to believe in that also.
I really do, because there's got to be somewhere else to go, like with all that like skills and like
and knowledge,
experience that you gain. Like,
and we really did that to an extent. I mean, it's not like we're not always, because like we took our sex work experience and then we come on here and we talk about stuff, but like Findom isn't really something that either of us have done. I feel like sex work informs what we do, but we're not.
Yeah, I think it's more like, it's not even about like I don't know how to tell someone to like be a good stripper. Like honestly, it sounds kind of harsh, but either you got it or you don't. Like, I really think everyone's in their own lane. There's not one way to like be it, whatever. Yeah. But I think what we've gained and learned from like those interpersonal like moments with like clients and like real life, real world, real people shit. Yeah, that's what I feel like I can offer people.
Yeah, the worldview, same. Right. Like, and in the intersectional
not the like how to make
too.
Fucking
right,
$10,000.
Like,
like
exactly.
I can't tell you
it's
how to
more
do
like
that.
how it connects to sex, relationships, all the bigger stuff. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So this really disappointed me and like kind of made me sad. But we asked you guys, do you think Findom is an easy route for a lot of money? And 63% did say yes, and 37% said no. And it makes me sad for a lot of reasons. One, because I know the internet is promoting it to be this way, and that's kind of why people think that.
Yeah.
They think, like, I don't know, like, men are so disposable. Like, of course, they're going to be willing, like, all the time to just give us money or something like that.
And that women don't do anything.
And
that
that
it's not
sex work isn't work. Yeah. Right. That's the third one. It's just, like, it's not hard. It's easy. Like, it's literally so hard to do any sort of thing. And I would argue this shit is particularly really, really hard because you are not dancing on them with titties in your face. Like, you literally are communicating, like we're talking about with the creative artistry part of this. Like, it's actually really hard. Like, yes, maybe you can get lucky. You meet someone online, they give you like a big amount of money, but to have a substantial career that can like last you a lifetime and like maybe even offer like generational wealth, like that is not easy. Okay? Yeah. It's not easy. And not saying don't do it, but like it's work.
It's a lot. And honestly, I'm going to go on a tangent real quick, but like it makes me think of the Lily Phillips thing. Like, because we just did the episode.
I saw people are like saying Lily Phillips is the new Bonnie Blue on YouTube videos, so we might need to circle back on her.
We might need to go back because I watched the documentary and everyone is zoning in on the very end where after she fucked the 100 men, she cried and she was just like, but if you watch the whole thing, she's crying because she's like, I just felt like I was like rushing them and people traveled so far and there was like all this pressure to do a good job and like all this stuff. And it's like, you got to think like, she's creating all this content just like an influencer, just like us to a degree. She has to edit stuff. I mean, she has a team and everything, but she has to edit stuff. She has to record stuff just on like the content marketing sense. But then she also has the very interpersonal relationship side where she genuinely cares about her fans because they're paying for her shit. And so like her crying to me in that situation was like, one, because she just worked 14 fucking hours and didn't eat in the same way that like you would work a 14-hour double waitressing shift. And
literally that.
And she's crying because she feels like she didn't perform the best and she disappointed people in the same way that you would like if me and you are recording an episode or we just did a speech and we feel like it flopped or something like that.
You get emotional.
You get emotional.
Crying is not always a bad thing. Like sometimes like I cry like just to release shit. And like at the end of the day, like she wanted to do that and she fully enjoyed it. It was consensual, but it is a lot on your body to have sex with that many men. It's a lot on your body to do a lot of things, to work in construction, to be a wrestler. That's compared a lot in the Findom community is like wrestling. Like I kept seeing that as like a comparison, like with power exchanges and like whatever. Like, and so it's like, why are we demonizing crying also? Like it's literally a release. Like it doesn't always mean you're sad when you're crying. And like she genuinely like wanted to like perform well because it's her work and like people laugh, but like it could be her passion too. Like she's literally a performer, like an artist. Like
And it made me think, like, why aren't we taking, because I was thinking all the fucking doubles that I've done waitressing and cried at the end of the shift or been like fucking exhausted, like snapped. And no one is taking that seriously. My boss is never going to be like, I understood you worked a long time, like whatever, like this is traumatic. Everyone who is working under capitalism, like you're pushing yourself to a fucking limit that is too much. And I feel like if there's anything we're talking about, it's the fact that it's like she's working her ass off. It's not about the sexual shit. Like everyone is zoning in on the sex. And it's like she's up for like best porn artist something award, and she's going on to fuck 1,000 men.
Like, where are y'all
Clearly she
awards?
wants to do this. Like,
Clearly she wants to do it, and she compared it to a marathon. I've never run a marathon, but I can imagine you run a 10-mile marathon, you might cry after because you're so happy that you did it, or maybe you fucked up a little, you didn't do as best as you wanted to. Your body hurts. Like, it's literally the same thing. And like y'all just keep thinking about sex as like fucking Jesus and virginity and fucking bruised fruit, and you're never gonna be able to understand anything if
and you just
continue to live
dehumanize
like that.
them, because it's like she's human, like she's having a human experience under her job, and it's like, I don't know, I just kept like
it's a
yeah, it's just
Like,
I keep seeing so many tweets, so many TikToks, and it like is festering. Like
before
it's
you
me
even
so
told
angry.
me, like I saw a TikTok and it's literally like always the same like screenshot of her crying. And the other part of the problem is no one's watching the documentary. They're watching the specific clips. And like you said at the beginning, if you guys watch the whole thing, that's a problem that we talk about all the time, and I'm sure I'm guilty of too. It's like we're very like clip culture right now. Like no one's watching the full. But I mean, So
and because it's like he was asking her after that, like he was throughout the documentary, he's like, how could she be okay with this? Is she gonna regret it? Da da da. And I had watched this other OnlyFans TikTok star, like she almost cried in this like video with this dude who was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you selling your body? Da da da. And it's like, bro, like that is to a point like bullying and putting shame on someone. And if someone was doing that to me, like even about the podcast, if I was sitting on a couch next to someone and they kept being like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you putting your whole life online? Why are you spending so much time on this? You know it's not going to make you money. You know you're not going to be valuable or get in a relationship. Like, that is going to make me cry.
Right.
You know, like that is just, and everyone continuously adding on to it. It's like, what do you guys are the fucking problem.
I know, they're bullies. And it's like at the strip club when people would say to me, and also to you too, like be like, you're too good for this. Why are you here? Like that makes me emotional too, because like you said, it's like, it's not like us that feels shame about the sex work. It's society projecting onto us. So when you're like saying that societal stereotype and like how maybe I quote unquote should feel about what I'm doing, but I don't feel that way, you are going to strike a fucking nerve. Like,
because you're being gaslit. Because you're being, like, they're putting that on you so much. You can only, and then there's even more pressure for sex workers to act emotionless and dehumanize themselves and be like, I feel no pain. I feel nothing. I just keep working, because it's like, you're not letting me be a fucking human. It doesn't mean I'm traumatized by the work I'm doing. It means I'm traumatized by you bitches. Like,
and that's where you get that stereotype in the media with strippers, like that movie that just came out, and like, it was a good movie, but like, she was emotionless. What was that movie called? Zola? Lola?
Zola?
Lola?
No, was she emotionless? No, the girlfriend experience. You're talking about the girlfriend experience. But she was in Zola too. Yeah, exactly. But like her whole character, she like played this like complete nothing.
And there's a reason for that. Like people get that from somewhere. But no, I'm happy you took us on that tangent. I kind of want to clip that and put it on TikTok, or like
honestly
make one, because I'm not seeing anything with the pro sex work lens. Like literally not one. Like I want to try to find one, because
I've been commenting on a lot of shit, and like people have commented back hating.
Yeah, like bro,
it's like fuck you guys. Like I just want to say, like, Lily Phillips, I love you and I appreciate what you're doing. And
and when I went to masturbate the other day, like I went on Pornhub, and because I had like searched her after that episode, she like came up in another video, and I was like, OT, like, but I feel like I know her. I'm like, oh, it's my friend.
That's
like,
our bestie.
Don't know her. But okay, so switching gears, we asked you guys too, what do you think about financial domination, like as a kink, like the kink itself? And this is like very spread out. I did make these polls, so like kind of dramatic, some of them. But 39% said, take all the men's money. I don't give a fuck. It's not funny.
Very in with the times.
Yeah. 32% said a kink is a kink, and I do think that was the right answer.
Yeah,
that
same.
Was, like,
same.
If it was like a quiz, like that one would be green. 16% said it makes me a little sad, which, like, okay, I'll touch on it in a minute. And someone said it's, oh no. And then 13% said it's stupid to drain all your money. And I'm going to be so honest with you guys. Like, I'm not perfect. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've definitely, like, had kink shame thoughts before. And, like, part of me did think, like, it is stupid to, like, drain your money. Like, especially in an economy like this, like, whatever. But, like, that's wrong. But, like, that's why I put that on there. Because, like, I genuinely had that thought. Like, that was my first thought. What's the second thought?
There is a point to which it's stupid, and I know we're going to get into it more, like, a little bit later, but, like, when you are, like, similar to, like, a gambling addict, like, there's a difference between going to the casino and gambling a little bit and, like, losing your money, wasting it, and then someone that's, like, going into significant debt, like, loses their house, over that. Like, then, okay, yeah, you're a little stupid. That doesn't mean, like, that the kink in general is fucking stupid, but there's a line that you cross in which it's like, okay, you're just, like, you are maybe self-harming to an extent. You know what I'm saying? But, I don't know.
Thank you.
That's with anything.
Because I really was, like, trying to articulate that thing. It's like, should the kink become, like, your whole life and, like, have impacts on, like, your life forever? Like, I don't think so. Like, if it's, like, a truly, like, happy, healthy thing for you, like, it shouldn't, you know, fuck you that badly.
Because it's the same as anything else, right?
Like CNC 24/7, like, you're going to be a little bit like, oh, my God.
Yeah, or like any fucking alcohol even. Like, if you become a fucking alcoholic, then it's like, okay, bitch, like, you have an addiction. Like, versus, like, being able to have a drink, like, and enjoying something. Like, Findom should be, and I mean, part of it is, like, they like to have their wallet drained for them to be struggling because she is, like, that. You know, so it's a line, but I feel like it is on the sub to know that line. And, like, there is a point in which it probably becomes a little bit fucking stupid.
Right. And I will say, thank you, Fiji. Thank you so much for validating that. And one of my other thoughts was, like, it does make me sad because, like, we just did the Gender Wars episode and like, it fucked me over just like every other episode that we've had epiphanies in. And now I'm just like, but it's like, I have to remind myself, just because it might seem like it's majority, like, male subs, female subs, and maybe that is the reality, that's not everything. Like, it's not always a male sub, but, like, you know, and then I'm just, it's like, it does make me a little sad to an extent, especially, like, when people struggle, like, mentally and, like, it is an addiction. Like, it does make me sad because, like, getting a bruise from, like, rough play, like, BDSM that way, it's like the bruise goes away. But, like, to have, like, financial impacts for the rest of your life, like, because you, like, had a kink and you got lost in it, like, that does make me a little sad.
Yeah, it makes me sad too on the thought of, like, the gender wars and, like, the men as
like,
success
I don't want
objects
to be a men's
and, like,
apologist, but why?
I know,
like,
but it's also like, bitch, when we think about CNC in our CNC episode, right? Like, does that make people sad? Like, most men that I've ever talked to about CNC without, like, they're like, are you okay?
Yeah,
like,
so maybe it's just because I don't feel this kink, and so maybe I need to, like, take that into consideration the next time someone's like, you like CNC? Because, like, I like it, so I'm like, what's sad about it? Like, it's fucking hot, you know?
Right. Because it's different, like, insecurities and different whatever, and I feel like especially as, like, cis women, bisexual women, whatever, like, we can't really relate in the same way like a corporate cis heterosexual white dude who's been lonely his whole life and has been working his ass off and has nobody to give his money to.
Right.
Like, for him to be, he's like, I've worked all this money. It's like a psychological thing. He wants to give it to someone and see them become, you know.
I know. And it's just so crazy. Like, if I told myself, like, in 2018, like, yeah, you're, like, sad because men are giving, like, bro, it's, like, ridiculous. Like, I feel like when you are, like, unlearning, like, misogyny, like, racism, like, all this shit, it's like, you do kind of, like, tip really far the other way before you like even out.
Yeah,
like,
you know
what I mean?
Because
like,
I
it's
feel like
you go
the
a little
same when I
extreme.
first started
I'm
like
sad.
unlearning like whiteness and like racism and stuff. I feel like it was like, okay, like there's a difference between like putting up with someone because like your friend is just like a bad person, like, you know, like the white guilt of being like, oh, I'm gonna keep putting up with this mistreatment from my friend because they're black and racism, versus like, this is just a bad friend,
right?
Like, you know, like that type of stuff. So it's like, yeah, when you're unlearning things, like it's easy to tip too far,
because it's like you're existing in white guilt and like obviously like I feel that and still feel that sometimes, but it's like, now I'm like, women's guilt, when like, should I even feel guilty? But it's like white women's guilt. Like, I don't think that's where I'm at right now. So I don't know, but basically take all the men's money. I don't give a fuck, that one. And like, I don't know what to say, guys. Like,
very,
I guess,
like, men are trash. Like,
whatever.
I don't know. Yeah.
So talking more about how sex work is like very much like more so in the mainstream, and like it's been online more than it ever has before, like in people's faces, etc. We're gonna read some quotes from some financial doms. This is from Days Digital. One of the doms is named B. She's a 22-year-old woman who, after graduating from high school in the U.S. in 2015, set up herself on social media as a financial dominatrix. And also, there's a Findom goddess named A.I.R, who's 29 years old, that give input in this article. So A.I.R says, it's getting harder and harder online to be a sex worker of any type. You can get your page what we call shadow banned, where they silence you and hide your profile if you use too many hashtags or advertise too much. On Instagram, you have to be careful with the links you have in your profile, because if they see you're an adult performer, they'll take down your account. It's almost like we have to be more quiet and finesse it more just to continue making a living. And it's like, bro, you can't even you can't even post a picture of your nipple without getting shadow banned. Think about,
I think
like,
we're
how
shadow
hard
banned
it
on
is.
TikTok right now, because
Bro,
our past
we have,
couple
like,
views have
40
only been
views.
yeah, exactly, like getting like, and it'll have good engagement, like 9 likes on 40 views.
And we're not even sex workers. We're just like talking about it. And it's like, so you can only imagine how fucking hard it is. And with the influx, like Instagram's paying attention more, you know? So yeah, the article goes on to say, like, Instagram has hella strict censorship rules, but Twitter is a little bit more relaxed. So a lot of this does live on Twitter. And B says, I have to grind harder now than ever before. The Findom hashtag is saturated with wannabes wanting to make a quick buck, and real doms are getting shadow banned to oblivion. I lost my old account at 11K followers and had to start all over again. Twitter is no longer sustainable. So it's like, she's not really feeling that Twitter is a little bit more relaxed, even though it might seem that way.
Right.
It's still really hard. So talking more about like the wannabes, the article says, browsing the Findom hashtag on both platforms, Instagram and Twitter, paints two very different pictures. Instagram is saturated with selfies, leading to profiles of very normal girls seemingly using the hashtag in a blasé, non-committal way. While on Twitter, the Findom hashtag is primarily utilized by women with tribute information in their bios who state they are verified and exclusively tweet about their financial domination. So in the wake of like hypergamy, like fuck men get money, it's like a cute hashtag of like,
no, but low-key I'm guilty of this, guys, because when I first signed up for TikTok, I remember seeing a video and I was with my friend Sean and we were talking about it, and he was like, you need to do this, like, and I was so down for it too. So I had put those hashtags in it didn't lead to anything, like I didn't even, you know, but like exactly, like you hear about it, you think like, why not, like it would be good if someone like messaged me.
And exactly, and then it's like, it does like hurt sex workers that are really doing it, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's not like it's a problem that more people want to try sex work. Like, it's all about intentions. Like, you've been a sex worker, you know that it's work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like definitely a little bit different. But it's like, it's the people that like don't have any like real intention of doing it and are like using that hashtag. Like, it's just like a little bit weird, but it's not like the worst thing, right? But it obviously to hear that like people are getting shadow banned that are actually doing it. Like, it does suck.
Yeah.
So more about the naivety of these wannabes. They disregard their safety and make mistakes that can land them in danger, she explains. But if you try and tell them, they'll just label you a hater. I've caught underage girls who use their high school emails to collect tributes. It's a mess. Despite acknowledging a frustration with Insta-Doms, B sees the new influx as healthy competition. The more wannabes that appear, the better I look and the more money I make, she tells me. These girls want to make money for doing nothing and quickly realize that's not the case, bitch.
This reminds me of our sugar dating episode with the high school emails and the EDU emails and all of that.
And like, the discount on
and
the
also,
EDU
if you're underage, like, don't do this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I was looking at our Spotify breakdown, and I saw we had a couple of listeners under 18, and that, like, concerns me a little bit. I mean, not all of our episodes are bad, but some of them are. So, like, if
and
you
we
are
always
under that
say
age,
explicit.
Yes, we
like,
always
we
say
always click
explicit.
that because clearly
we are. But like, if you guys are listening and you're under 18,
underage,
please
don't,
click off. Like, don't get into sex
like,
work. I mean, you don't have to click off. I feel like you can learn about it. Like, I'm not against that. Like, they're probably watching porn and doing whatever. But like if you want to
when you're
wait,
18, maybe.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like wait until you're 21. Like, I don't know. We were in the strip club before we were 21, and
that was stupid. We couldn't even like drink for real. Like, we could,
right?
But it had to
we
be
could,
some
but
sneaky ass shit. Yeah.
Right.
And then just a note kind of on the scammers, which we already kind of talked about. The article says, having seen a boom in recent years with all these how-tos popping up, that school aspiring Findoms and how to get money for nothing. The world of Findom has seen two new breeds of fakes emerge. Catfishing scammers who disappear after upfront payment. So someone that's like, I'll just get paid, and then dip out. It's not like something they really want to do. And naive wannabes referring to by pros as Insta-Doms. So I guess that's what they're calling them, because none of the real Findoms are really on Instagram because they can't be.
Yeah, Instagram's the worst platform to try to do anything. Yeah.
I know. A simple search of hashtags such as Findom and PayPig on Instagram will bring up hundreds of thousands of posts, most of which feature a selfie of a beautiful girl alongside a caption, "Who's gonna spoil me today?" or "Serve and obey, loser." A quick scan of these profiles generally offers easy insight into whether the Findoms are real, fake, or unknowing beginners. So we just have this rise of people that are trying it out, some with good intentions, some with not good intentions. But I do like how B, one of the Doms, was like, honestly, it's better for me. People can see that they're fake and that I'm real, and I just get the client anyway. So.
Right. Bring on the competition, bitch. She'll shine.
So before we move on, I did find a Reddit thread where people were kind of talking about the world of Findom, like before TikTok, like before all these how-tos, and just kind of like some more intel on like the people that are like really in it. So someone said, I'm someone who's been in this lifestyle before social media was a phrase. Hell, before even Findom was a word. It's just how it is now. While it sucks, I've learned to just go with it. There's yet another girl who stumbled upon Findom and created a profile for it yesterday. That's fine. It's nice jerk-off fodder. But I know genuine kinksters when I see them. So it's like, yeah, trying to spot out the people that are legit. Because if you're a legit sub, you don't want to just, like, have a one conversation. Like, you want that relationship to grow and the kink to grow as well, and for them to learn you and all of those things. Someone replied and said, I saw a girl on Twitter post her McDonald's receipt with the caption, "Which loser is going to pay for my McChickens?" And she posted the screenshots of her Cash App receipts in the replies of all of her subs who sent her money. 99% of the other replies were a bunch of normal girls acting like, what is this sorcery and how do I learn this? It makes me feel as a Fin sub that I'm just another drop in Goddess's bucket. Another tally on her board. And I can't even imagine how true Findom masters feel with all these new Doms intruding their space, flooding the already oversaturated market. Way too many Doms and not enough subs is a common theme that I see. And that's hard. Like, that's very hard. And then the last person replied, I feel like this is said about every single new social media platform that comes along, to be honest. Twitter, Insta, Snap, etc. I've heard about them all. If people think there is easy money to be made from it, they're going to shoot their shot at it. The fake ones will disappear as soon as they realize that they have to put effort into it. The real ones will stick around, I guess. And I think that is a positive. No, like it's true. Like, yes. Yeah. If once you realize it's a lot of work, if you really don't want to do it, if it's not like feeding you, it's not sustainable, they're going to be out. So like it might seem oversaturated, but like how many of them are legit? Because we definitely don't want to, you know, take up the real Findom space. I wouldn't want to cross those bitches. So.
Right.
But now we're going to get into a documentary that's on YouTube. It's in association with The New Yorker. There's also an article on The New Yorker, which I was able to access with Fiji's little trick. Tell the people what it is.
12ft.io, guys. If you want to read an article that you can't access, 12ft.io.
New York Times doesn't always work, though. It'll
it doesn't.
But the New
also,
Yorker,
I was able to get a New Yorker account for free somehow, and they sent me a tote bag.
Oh, yeah. I want a tote bag. Yeah.
I don't know if it was just a deal. I think I used Honey or something.
I think so, too.
Look into it, though. Try Honey, because the tote bag is cute as fuck.
And I want them to send me, like, the magazine. Like, I want to
I want the magazine, too, bro. Like we need a budget, guys. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you guys do subscribe, if you choose to 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 a month, that's what we would be paying for,
literally. But this documentary, again, it's called Alpha Kings. It was captured by Enrique Pedraza Botero and Faye Tasacas in their short film. It's called Alpha Kings. So anyways, it's only 15 minutes. We're just going to watch 2 clips. We'll play them back to back. Fiji?
Sweaty sock sub. If you want to see these socks, let me see some money. You trying to get in this?
Yes.
Try your vape.
Beta box.
And I want y'all to fucking like the fuck out of my live. Sit here and spam it. And while you're spamming it, fucking pay me. I want you to all go broke tonight.
You have any of the paper towels?
Okay, then just tip me. Tip me fucking 20 right now, okay?
Not doing shit y'all want till I see some Cash App. Good.
Fucking love it.
Keep on sending. This is a fucking example for all of you fucking betas.
You should be all sending just like him.
all doing what he is doing and serving us.
Just like a good little loser. These feet are for you tonight. Keep paying me the way you're doing.
Yeah. And these feet are fucking yours right now for sending.
Keep fucking sending all night long. If y'all want these fucking feet in your fucking face and you want to sniff and fucking worship.
Yeah, that's what happens when you fucking send a tip, is you get to worship these perfect fucking feet.
Yeah, I like to see all that money coming in.
Yeah, see? When you fucking pay, life's easier, isn't it, you fucking pigs?
You keep fucking getting to see these fucking feet if you keep paying me.
Keep us happy and satisfied with your fucking money. Because obviously it's not satisfying you enough.
It's different. Like, we're not. I mean, when you say sex work, I think of like prostitution.
No, it's
and stuff.
definitely sex work.
It definitely. I don't know.
The meats are sex work.
The meats are
That's
sex work, but like
it doesn't even matter if we're not doing anything. Them like praising our feet, like licking our feet, like
over the phone, it's definitely not.
That's bro. They're getting off to that like hard.
It's normal. Like yeah, it's like.
I mean like
it seems normal now. Like,
but definitely, like I was like saying a year and a half ago, none of this. I'd have been. I would have been like, I was fucking gay as
when I first heard of it, I was like,
no way.
What the fuck? Like,
and also a big thing about this is like, a lot of us don't know what we want to do with our lives, and so it's like we aren't forced into a 9-to-5 where we're like, you know,
trying to figure
or college where we have to grind at something that building someone else's dream.
I don't want to be 19 and broke in college right now.
Yeah, like
when I could be making the money I'm making.
I have a lot of friends like that, and they're fucking miserable.
No.
This is my boyfriend.
I do feet pics.
And I'm his manager.
And I love telling people what I do for a living.
Dude, for real, it's so funny to get their reaction.
Like, I'll do it for
mad.
fun, just for looks on their face.
They get
They're
mad.
like, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I sew my feet. They're like, oh, funny, what do you actually do?
Like my mom. My mom will tell me, stop being so lazy, get out of bed. And I'm like,
Mom, I sew my feet, I don't have to.
She works like 8 hours a day at a nuclear plant. Like sometimes 12 hours a day, and I still make more than her.
So first of all, all, this is hilarious. And it's so funny that first of all, I was like, how old are they? Because they seem so young.
Like, I feel like they could be in college. Like, it's definitely giving
it's giving that. Because
sure.
one of them said 19. So
Yeah.
I'm like, they're young.
They're
at
young.
least they're over 18. Like, that's good. But, I mean, I'm fucking for it. I see the market for it. It's huge. Like, especially in, like, the gay community, there's a lot of, like, gay sub daddies, like older men that love like younger men and love to be like, it makes like so much sense. But the part that was killing me was when they were like, oh, like a year ago, like I would have thought this was gay. Like, I don't see this as gay. And it just reminds me so much of so many men that I know in the fucking underground that are fucking in denial about their bisexuality or queerness at all. And it's just like, and it's like, part of me is like, it's hard, right? Because it's sex work. And, like, I know we knew a lot of lesbians. You were lesbian at the time. You weren't, like, you didn't discover your bisexuality or pansexual.
I sure
whatever.
was.
Yeah, like, you were just
But I was closeted bisexual,
But you were closeted, exactly. So it's, like, there are a lot of, like, just plain lesbians, though, at the strip club.
Yes,
so it's, like, I want to
sure.
acknowledge that you don't have to be that way. But I think, like, there is, like, a weirdness around men in general, and especially, like, straight, like, these type of guys that are like, oh, it's not gay. And it's like, bro, like, what you're doing is gay.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you're necessarily gay, but you are doing gay sex work.
That's the problem. Because Go ahead.
And it is sex work. That's the other thing where they were like, oh, I don't think it is. Like, that's like prostitutes. And one of them was like, no, it definitely is.
Yeah.
Like, so I was like, shout out to him.
Seriously.
But it's like, no, guys, like, it is fucking sex work.
And like, if you don't want to think it is, like, whatever. Like, honestly, it can be whatever you want it to be. But exactly, like, there are people that identify certain ways and, like, engage with, like, certain genders that they wouldn't engage with outside of that. But the problem is, like, with him saying, like, I would have thought this was so fucking gay, like, in a negative way. Because this is, like, within the queer space. Just because you're not queer, like you said, like, you're still
And
engaging.
it's weird, though, because part of that is the kink. Like, and the guy that I dommed, like, he wanted, and he is, like, closeted. Like, one of his fetishes is that I'm going to tell everybody how much of a little faggot that he is. Like, that's what he likes to be called. And, like, part of his fetish is that I'm going to tell everybody that we know, and that he wants me to, like, watch him suck dick and tell him how bad he is at it. Like, it's all of that stuff. So it's like, I can get, like, how some of their mindsets about things may be reinforced, especially being so young doing this work, because a lot of the subs kink is literally for straight guys to be like, you're so fucking gay, I would never fucking touch you, da-da-da, which outside of any space besides kink, we would be like, that is homophobic, that is hateful, whatever. But inside of kink, it's
works.
different.
That's actually, you know, what a lot of the subs on the other end of these guys are actually looking for. Exactly. Yeah. But I just thought that was some different representation than definitely what we see online with, like, women doms, like, whatever, like, and like you said, there's definitely a market for it. But basically, these group of boys, they practice financial domination on OnlyFans as well. So again, with the multiple platforms, which you see a lot of Findoms do, it's like you do have to be on different platforms, different people, different income streams, like all of that.
And I bet they're censored less, probably, right?
Because
I feel like just the sexism and the patriarchy, when we were talking about the gender wars and the timelines, I feel like these boys specifically would have way less of a, because that's how a lot of guys talk on the internet when they're streaming, whatever. They're like, fucking pussies.
And what's
like,
interesting too is, like, they were like, I love telling people what my job is. And, like, not to say that, like, all sex workers keep it a secret.
Right.
But I think when we think about gender, it's like, for a lot of women, it's like, maybe people look at you weird, but for some women, it's like a safety thing. Like, if you say you're a stripper, it's like they're gonna fucking kidnap you. Like, you're like, literally that. So it's just like, that was interesting to me too. Like, not to say all, like, some women, they tell their families, they tell everyone, and that's fine. But I do think, like, and I felt in the past, like, it's a safety thing. I don't want to tell someone.
Yeah, and I feel like for them, it's like the worst that people think is, oh, you're gay. You know what I'm saying? Versus, like, I don't think
Like,
they'd
you're
ever,
worthless.
like, be like, you'd lose a job over that or something. Like, people would probably be like, bro, that's a good gig, like, whatever. Like, I know a good amount of men in Atlanta that have OnlyFans, and it's like a lot of them are weird about the fact that I know the majority of their clientele is men, and they act like it's not, or like they'll like skirt around it or like be weird when you like say something, and it's like
they know.
because they don't want to acknowledge the fact that it's like queer, but it's like most men that are doing sex work, their clientele is men, like generally.
Right. Yeah, I know. And how interesting is that?
Yeah.
It's like the clientele is like like all men, whether it's
Yeah.
gay, straight.
Yeah.
And then the filmmakers who I mentioned, Enrique and Faye, said, what was fascinating to us is how these kids felt given the current economic climate, given the rapid shrinking of the middle class, that this was genuinely the best opportunity for them to achieve the trajectory of the American dream that isn't really possible for Gen Z in the way it used to be. We were also interested in the fact that it was a group of boys who all did this together in a kind of social bonding way. Like, the girlfriend was there, she's the manager, and in the documentary, like, they would show the boys like on the cams, like with
Yeah,
what
they were
we
doing
saw.
it together with their feet. Yeah.
And then they would pan to the side, and the girlfriend was taking notes. She was writing down how many tips. She was adding it up on the calculator.
I love the reverse of roles, because remember we talked about with Andrew Tate, it's like so many men want to manage the girls that are doing this stuff.
Hi.
But like, low-key, I feel like business-wise, like, not to be like gender whatever, like I'm trying to get out of that, but like women kind of manage businesses better. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, make the men the workers, make the women manage.
Right, like maybe this is actually the answer.
Right. Like, next guy I date, I'm going to be like, do you want to do OnlyFans?
No, it's like, it's really good for us to see like that representation revolt switch.
Yeah.
For sure. The filmmakers also said we were fascinated by how they would leave the camera on for hours and do mundane things, and people would actually pay for that, which is like a common thing when people don't really know how OnlyFans, financial domination, all this stuff works. Sometimes you can just be cooking naked and you can make money if you have
painting your toes, watching Netflix.
If you worked hard enough to build up your clients, not right away.
And that's what everyone ignores. Yep.
Exactly. They think they can just paint their toes. Even me, I was like, I'm going to start a yoga OnlyFans and just do yoga naked, like when I have 0 subscribers. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, you could start that, but you'd have to put.
Yeah. That'd be cool though, right?
Yeah, you should do a dancing one, honestly.
Something, bro.
Like, right? Like, low-key, I'm kind of, the more we do these episodes, though, it kind of makes me want to do it, but.
Okay, let's keep doing it. Just kidding. And the last thing is the filmmakers were like, the kind of work the boys do is very tied to the celebration of culture in America right now. It's a new arena of fandom. Influencer culture has paved the way for this kind of work to exist, which I don't really know about that. The boys know that there is value in their youth and that their turn as Findom masters might not last forever. One of them told me, I'm going to do this as long as I'm young enough, as long as I look like this. So there is, like, for some people, like a youth thing, but I don't think, like obviously there's older doms too. Like, I think that's just, like, a feeling on the culture. But I don't agree with influencer culture has paved the way for this kind of work to exist. We know that it's always exists. I think hopefully what they meant is that, like, we're seeing a big influx, and because there's more information, whether accurate or not, available to people, and like OnlyFans was created, and like that opened up more doors. Right, but it's not like it was already there.
But I think it is like it intersects, right? Because sex work is what paved the way for this to be possible. But as people grow influencer platforms, it makes more sense for them to create an OnlyFans because they already have a fan base, and then, you know, it just
built
spirals,
it built it up. Yeah, exactly. So switching gears, Fiji put me on to one of the hottest rappers in UK right now, Ceechynna, who is 20 years old. She's a lesbian. She's a rapper. She's a retired financial dom. And also we heard on TikTok, don't know if it's true, that she used to do feminist spoken word poetry. And as we can see in a little bit, a lot of people on TikTok are really commending her for being feminist in her lyrics, which we're going to get into. But we obviously had to talk about her because she literally used to be a financial dom and then obviously took off as a rapper and was like, you know, she doesn't really need to do that anymore. We'll see what happens. But Vogue did a piece on her and basically just talked about specifically her songs Legal Baby and Last Laugh have more than 10 million streams right now. And the article says both of which have been designed with the specific intention of intimidating the sort of men who perceive feminism to be harmful. So already we have like a sentence about feminism right into the interview.
Yep.
And she creates dark and ominous moods, backdrop with sirens and pitch shifted cackles. Her lyrics always teetering on the seductive and sadistic. Just lead him on, tease, and scam him. There are so many male rappers, Ceechynna says, that just degrade women. And so I think we need an artist to come in and talk about them in the same way they do about women. I'm all about female empowerment, and so I write about things that make women feel in control. Financial domination and stuff. I want women to know that they don't have to fit into what society tells them to.
Mm-hmm.
She goes on to say, I've always wanted to make music, and I've always known that I wanted to arrive onto the scene with a bang. But the money I have been earning from doing traditional 9-to-5s, working as a waitress, but mostly cleaning toilets, scrubbing mold off the floor, and washing over 500 dishes a day was never going to be enough to fund that. I was also very shy at the time, so I wanted to get used to being front of the camera, communicating with loads of people at once. And you know what? I made a lot of money for someone who had just turned 18. The calls were charged at €5 a minute, so I could make 4,000 euros just like that. I would have to do a month's worth of normal work to achieve that kind of income. Every single entertainment platform I was on has now shut down, though. So she wasn't on OnlyFans, clearly.
Yeah.
She was on other, like, chat bot, like, websites for communicating. So, yeah, like, I don't know. Like, we're going to get into the lyrics, but just the whole thing about, like, female empowerment, like, I want women to know that they don't have to fit into what society tells them to do, like, financial domination. Like, how do you feel about that, like, messaging?
I feel like it's like both, right? Because to a certain degree, it's like we don't agree with like the sprinkle, hypergamy, like all of that sort of stuff. But I feel like I've seen a lot of TikToks where it talks about, one, she's using drill beats. So she's like luring men in with these drill beats. I've seen that be like a common theme, and then like confronting them. And like in her song, I don't know if we're going to read the lyrics of that. No, I don't think so. But one of the songs, she's like, the first line, which I literally made my caption, she's like, all you do is chill on your block, smoke weed, rap about ops that you don't even have. I'm like, bro, like that's literally, you know, a lot of men. And like, it's just saying a truth. Just like a lot of men will be like, oh, you guys are just hoes. You just want attention. You just have the Instagram filters, like whatever. So I like that how like honest she is about stuff, because it's like, this is the reality. Like you feel entitled to a woman's attention, but you're not really doing anything.
Right.
And then I think like her history with the sex work and the Findom and everything like that is like heavily influencing the way that she talks about these men and the power dynamics as well. So it's like you have to consider that. And that's the one gap that I was seeing with people talking about it on TikTok, and that I think should be more like center, is her history with that, because that heavily informs the lyrics as well. Like it's not like she's just this like woman saying that without that sex work history.
Right.
So I think kink is playing into it too. And if you ignore that, I think you're in a dangerous place, because it is a lot about degrading men, a lot. But like at the same time, she's praising the men that were financially supporting her, because she has that one lyric where she's like shitting on the men that smoke weed, but then she's like, I only fuck with men with a financial aura, or like a wealthy aura, or something like that. So she's like, you know, it is reinforcing patriarchal gender roles to an extent, but with the sex work lens, I think that it's different.
Yeah.
So it's like sex positive feminism, sex positive sex work, positive feminism. Like it's a lot at once.
I agree. And I think too, it's really important that she said like, cause like male rappers like talk about women, like literally horribly. Like a lot of artists do that are men, but it's like pretty bad, you know? And it's like, we like bump that music and sing it with our full chest. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, I do think we need like, for, like you said, more truth telling. And like to not fire back at the men, but it's just like we have truth too about how you all act. And so like we do need that. And so I'm glad that she said that. And
And the other thing I like about it is that like she's degrading these men like the ones that are paying her, right? But she's also lifting them up and respecting them in a sense too. But she's degrading the men like the ones that just chill on their block, smoke weed, rap about ops that they don't have, that are hating on her and saying that her music is bad and stuff like that. So it's like she's degrading these men because it's a sexual thing, but lifting them up in the sense of like they're respecting her work. And then she's like calling out the other men that are like sexist as well. So it's like multidimensional. And also, I had posted her songs on my story, and I had at least, I shit you not, 5 guys that I know from Atlanta that were like, bro, I love her. Like, I love her music. And I think that's like cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're more like underground, like not super toxic masculinity, like kind of guys. But I think what she's doing, like men, at least they found it funny as well, because they're like, okay, like she's owning shit. Like I think men do see a lot of the ways that women can be owning our shit more, but like we get all this stuff from men and it makes us feel like shit, and then we become insecure about it. But she's so shameless in it that it's like you cannot help but respect it, you know?
Right. I know. And it's like healthy men will get it. Like men that get that it's like not an attack on you, it's like an attack on like the society and how it is. But that's honestly a green flag if they like her. Like, and she's a lesbian too. And like a lot of the TikToks were like, are you guys forgetting like blah, 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 that like she's a lesbian? And like, we'll get into it, but people are like, I saw a lot of people say like, arguably like a lesbian would be so great at like being a Findom with like a straight guy, because it's like they don't really give a fuck.
You could
like,
never touch her too, like
literally,
like even more
just like with the
never,
gay and the straight men, like the gay men and the straight men.
All right, guys, so let's read some of Ceechynna's lyrics from Peggy, and I've been obsessed with this song, guys.
Yeah, I think this one was my favorite, honestly.
Right, this is the newest one. Yeah. I like this one and Last Laugh. Those are my top.
Wait, what's the one where she's in the like flag bikini?
Last Laugh.
Okay, so well, that's why I chose these two.
So in Peggy, she says, I told that man I love short men because I wanted to use him. I'm putting these N-words in debt. If I get his wallet, I'm going to abuse it. Quote, Ceechynna, please have mercy. I ain't getting paid till the end of the week. I don't give a fuck. Shut the fuck up. Get on your knees and grease my feet. Pussy. Like, oh my God, she eats. Like, I just made a TikTok to that.
But I think it's so important, like what you said, based on, because I'll be honest, bitch. If this was some other girl that like wasn't a sex worker, like I would be a little bit like, like
especially the route we've gone down lately with the gender wars. Yes, agreed. But also, it is important to note too, like even like Bell Hooks, right, in that interview that we included in the Gender Wars Timeline episode, like he had asked her like, how do you feel about gangster rap? Because like it's very against a lot of what you talk about. And she's like, no, I think it's important to pull from that because culturally it's so core to the Black community and like blah, blah, blah. So it's like, I think it is also important to appreciate art and appreciate entertainment and fun outside of just being a stickler about like everything. But
I'm becoming a stickler.
No, I feel you insane. Because I was second guessing myself. I'm like, I fucking love this song. Like, do I need to check myself? So I obviously had to like do more research. But like at the end of the day, it's like, there's certain like music that I love from like male rap art. It's just, you know,
exactly. Like,
and we're
like
so used to that. We can't be like that with the women.
Like, we're so hard on women. I know, exactly. But I do think like all of that shit aside and like the unlearning and like the swinging of the pendulum, I do think like it does make like the lyrics hit way harder because like she's like said this shit before for real. And people have probably literally said, Ceechynna, please have mercy. I don't get paid till next week. So I do think it like makes the art like more beautiful. Like aside from all that shit, it's like I appreciate that like a lot. But it's fucking like the lyrics fucking eat. And like you think even in the Gender Wars timeline with like empowerment feminism, like when it comes to Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B, it's like that was such a fucking moment. And it's like I never want to like lose like the goodness I felt from that. Like it doesn't have to be
Cardi B was a sex worker too. Exactly. So like that's also, you know, so it's like
intersectional conversations. But okay,
last laugh, which is, I think I like last laugh more than Peggy. I don't know, I like them both. But she says, I never fucked with these hood rats. Every man I link has a wealthy aura. The mandem are getting scammed. They think I can heal their childhood trauma. China, why did you scam me? I can't say it without like rubbing it.
I know, exactly.
It's so hard, bro. Because I only wanted your money. Send a N-word back in a cab. You don't get pussy. You must be funny. They're running out of things to say. Now they want to talk about my future kids. I did what I did for the money. If you don't like it, then it is what it is, bitch. My family's seen all the pics, and I promise you N-words, they don't give a shit. And my sons will never complain because they know their mom didn't raise no bitch. Everyone calling me an internet thought, tell them N-words, I fucking love it. I love that part of the video. Yes! Like, I fucking love it. I made so much money last week just to act like a thought. Tell me what you know about profit. I never had to fuck for the bag, so cool, now just stop it. And I made 12 racks on cam just to sit on the bed and do nothing. And this is what I love about this too, is like it's going back and forth, right? Because it's like obviously she wasn't doing nothing.
Right.
Like, in the same way that like the other TikToker is talking about, like, I'm not doing nothing, but I am doing nothing because it's the fantasy. And she's going back and forth between like that lens. But I love how she's talking like directly to the people that are hating on her. Like, especially the line where she's like, and my sons will never complain because they know their mom didn't raise no bitch. And like they've seen all the pictures, like they don't give a shit. Like that, all of those are common things that people say against sex workers. Like, what are you, the one line that I'm a little bit like whatever is the one where she's like, I didn't even have to fuck for money or something like that.
That's not in here, is it?
No, where
I never had to fuck for the bag, so cool, now just stop it.
Yeah, because it's again like the like, is it bad? It isn't bad also if you do have to fuck for the bag. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
it's like there's an idea. It's like some girls just got it like that. They don't have to do anything. They just get like 12 racks or whatever. But it plays into the
kink too.
Yes, exactly.
So that's why it's also multi-layered. And also this is art. This is a catchy song that hit like the charts. So it's like you're limited in terms of like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I really do think like out of like every other like music genre, like rap is poetry. Like especially when you read it out like this, and like this is not just poetry, like it is like feminist, intersectional, pro-sex work poetry. So like I can see why even if people are wrong, that people on TikTok are saying like that's like I fucking love it. I ate it up. So thank you for putting me on. But now we're going to talk about some TikToks that Fiji found about kind of people talking about China's lyrics and like the feminism entrenched within or not or whatever. So this first person said, China's Peggy explores womanhood as an assertion of power, autonomy, and unapologetic sensuality. This song flips traditional gender dynamics by presenting the woman as the dominant force, which is true in the world of Findom, where typically whatever. By leveraging the themes of control, financial independence, and sexual liberation, the lyrics confront societal norms that often try to box women into submissive roles. The brash tone, filled with humor, satire, and boldness, reflects a refusal to be silenced or shamed. Peggy will be a celebration of radical femininity in this context, using exaggeration and irreverence to critique fragile masculinity. Lines about exploiting male egos, financial opportunism, and rejecting societal expectations underscore a narrative of liberation and empowerment. That was a mouthful. Ceechynna is all about dominance through humor and hyperbole, creates a space where women can wield agency without fear, embodying a chaotic yet powerful reclamation of identity and self-worth. So the fact that like people are getting this from her music is like amazing.
It's huge, yeah.
The next TikTok says, Ceechynna is actually making anti-misogyny and feminist literature with her music. Literally, bro. Like, emphasis on literature.
Literature, bitch.
The song is a masterclass in subversion by luring men with the drill beat, like what you were talking about, then confronting them with lyricism that makes them feel uncomfortable. Her tone, word choice, and presentation allow for an assertion in womanhood. Almost kind of like the idea of the siren, like lures men in and then you're going to hold them accountable or whatever.
Yep.
Her lyrics may seem satirical and absurd, but she's single-handedly flipping dynamics between women and men. The next TikTok says, in the line, quote, I'm in the back of the car with your daddy and he's twerking and popping a perk. Ceechynna subverts traditional gender roles and reduces this man to a emasculated, hypersexual role. He is nothing but a tool for her amusement and pleasure. She flips the traditional narrative where men objectify and use women and asserts her own power, dominance, and agency. She's a hashtag woman in male fields, like that trend that's like going around.
Yeah. And these three, like I had seen these, and I had actually like made a TikTok this morning when I was walking Mozzie
we should have put
about
it in.
this stuff. I know, but it like of course got shadow banned. Like it only has like fucking 30 views. But like I was talking about this, and I think my thing with a lot of these is the one thing that's missing in these critiques and stuff is the sex work angle. Because I think that that's so key. It's not just about dynamics between women and men, but it's also adding the intersection of sex work into it, which plays a huge role. But like what I was saying in my TikTok and what I'm going to try to like explain now is like sex work is so often seen, and anything that women do and women run is so often seen in a negative light, right? And it's always like, you're a hoe, you're like what everyone is saying to Lily Phillips, like you're abusing yourself, like you're self-harming, you're traumatizing, da-da-da. They make the sex worker, the woman, seem submissive and seem subservient, when in reality, in a lot of sex work, despite if you're a Findom or a dominatrix or even playing the submissive role in kink, women in those sex workers roles actually have the dominance because of the like financial transaction. Like with you being the worker and them being the person that's paying for the service, like you are the business, like you are the corporation, like the big daddy that like this like smaller person is paying for.
Right.
And so I think a lot of the like what's so insane and how we see women, it's straight up misogyny and how we view sex work. We look at it as like a fault to women, and women are losing something and being subservient or whatever, but it's because we don't want to acknowledge that the men are the submissive ones in these roles, because we cannot fathom a woman being dominant.
And it's they don't want to acknowledge too that it's like the woman's doing it for money. Like how is that putting her in a submissive fucking role? It's like people just assume she was forced into it, like she must hate her life, like no one talks about, oh, she just is making good money and wants to keep living that way. But it's literally so fucking true.
And no
it's
one's
like,
paying attention to the men, too, on the side of
they just
oh,
coast
he's
on
spending
by.
all his money, he's twerking and popping a perk. Because that's the other thing that I said in the TikTok is, like, we talk about it as women performing for men, right?
Mm-hmm.
Women are performing for men. They're degrading themselves. They're doing all this stuff. No, I think it's men are performing for women's attention, and that's via money, via the exchange of money. Like women have something that men cannot access unless they pay for it. So they are the ones that are performing.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
And we always used to talk about, I do completely know what you're saying, and we always used to talk about in the strip club, it's like, yes, like strippers play a game, but the men, the clients that come in are just as much playing a fucking game. And they're not at work. They're here to spend money and relax. Like this is their leisure fun time. But they are just as much playing a game and like probably putting on a certain persona. Like you don't act like the exact same way when you're like getting groceries. Like you are. Yeah. So it's like exactly no one ever talks about that role, the men's role, like in what they're doing. It's just I know. It's
just the misogyny on the women. And the one thing that I've been thinking about just post Gender Wars episode and talking about everything else, and it's like I feel like what I still need to figure out, and this is probably like confused as well when we get into that, but like is where I fit my views of capitalism into everything. Because it's like
I'm not ready for that.
What I'm saying though?
I'm not ready for that.
It's like she's scamming them, she's exploiting them, like she's getting the most money out of them as possible, which is capitalistic. But I'm not gonna go criticize her when we have like these health insurance companies, if you guys are fucking paying attention, doing what they did and everything else. So it's like if we're under capitalism, we have to do what we have to do to survive in this society. But it's like, what does life look like beyond? Like, how do we become anti-capitalistic while still owning sex work And like all of that whole conversation is a little bit like confusing to me. But we
Yeah.
can move on to the next one because I don't want to like
That's
scramble
like
our brains
really
too much.
big, Fiji. That's like really fucking big. And last thing, like you don't need to like give me like a long response, but like everyone's, like you said, no one in these TikToks are talking about the sex work angle. They're talking specifically about flipping traditional gender roles. And so it's like people are feeling like good about that just because typically women are not as dominant, right? Like that's the flipping of the gender roles they're talking about.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But I will add, like, not to give a long answer, but I will add, like, I think part of it also, and part of the issue that I have with not including the sex work aspect of that is that the misogyny, right? Because it's like a lot of what women do is dominant. We just don't see it as dominant because we're looking at it in a misogynistic lens. But we only see it as dominant when the gender roles are flipped and a woman is acting like a patriarchal man, like Findom. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a little, and that's why I'm like, we need the sex work intersection in this because again, for us to be liberated and for us to be equal, it is not just becoming the man, it is also being appreciated for our femininity and the dominance and everything that is in that as well. So like,
wow, bitch. I never thought about it like that. Because like patriarchy is like submissive women, like whatever, but it's like, why do we, like Bell Hooks says, like we have the agent of change to like create a new thought. Like, no. Yes, patriarchy tells us this, but actually women are the dominant role. So if we just like reinforce that rhetoric, like, oh, it's switching traditional, it's like, yeah, bro, that's
because
crazy.
like someone like you who's like, I would not see myself being a Findom, like that's not what you're into. You prefer the submissive role. But when you were a sex worker and you in your regular life very much give dominant energy in a lot of things, we just don't see it that way because we're looking at it misogynistically.
And
So,
I'm just like so like wet for being a sub. It's like it clouds me. But I don't like, that's why I say like I need to step into that power. Like we all, I think, need to like live in a like sub-dom space.
right.
You know, just like sexuality. It's a spectrum. So 2 more TikToks. This one on the screen says, "This is why I love Ceechynna, because feminism isn't enough for me. I need misandry." I don't.
Yeah. This is what takes it too far. And this is what, this is like media. This is media fucking literacy, guys. And I don't know.
Like, it's not misandry.
Maybe Ceechynna would say it's
Findom.
misandry, but I feel like if she's rooted in feminist poetry and she actually studies feminist stuff, which I want to think that she does, like, it doesn't make sense. And like taking it there is almost disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? And it's not including the sex work angle because like it's not misandry if it's in kink and like, you know, and I don't think she's being misandrous either. She's confronting men and calling out truths. Like she's not saying it's inherent to like who they are. So I don't like that take.
Because it's like, she's like, she said, like, you know, this is how a lot of male rappers like talk about women, so I'm going to do that back. But she is doing it in a different way. She's not like really going in like how you feel men do. So it's like, yes, those male rappers are misogynistic, so like her doing it makes her a misandrist. It's like, no, they're different. She's doing it differently. Exactly. And this last one said, quote, "Does Ceechynna know she's a lesbian? Are y'all genuinely surprised that a lesbian is a femdom? Who's going to dom a man better than a lesbian who's genuinely disgusted with men?" Like, and like, I just think that's like funny. And I do think the misandry one, it's like maybe that was a joke.
Yeah,
but like,
I think
just feel like we're in like I am in this time where I'm like, jokes aren't funny anymore.
Right.
Because people are dying.
And
Like
the media literacy and stuff too. I feel
Yeah.
like it's a little bit insulting to the complexity of her lyrics and her poetry and stuff like that. I feel like it's almost like what a man would say, like, oh, this is misandry, and pass it off. Like, you know, I think it waters it down.
Literally what a fucking man would say. Exactly. Right. And like, no hate to this creator literally at all.
I think it's a joke. I think they're making
I think it's a joke too. And I've probably I've said horrible shit in the past, like recently, like, but I'm just learning, like we're taking in media and criticizing it live.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
So that wraps up Ceechynna. Now we're going to talk about another financial dominatrix known as Mistress Marley. So we'll put her picture on the screen. This woman named Mylao has a podcast called Other People's Pockets, and Mistress Marley was on it. So I'm going to paraphrase just some of the more like interesting answers that Marley gave. So basically they asked, you know, what's it like? And she's like, Marley's like, you'll have some subs you want to meet in person. We call them fin subs. And then she goes on to say most of it is about online. When they do want to meet you, they do something that's called a cash meet. And when you're meeting the sub at the ATM, you're requesting a certain amount of money they should take out and hand it to you. Either you can humiliate them, you can walk away, any type of embarrassment they might ask, whatever it is, it's all consensual. So just talking about, you know, some of the experiences that she had. So how did she first get into it? She says, when I first started out, it was hard for me to really get in the mode of knowing I'm going to humiliate someone because I'm from the South, so I have this sweet Southern belle thing. I've always been just a sweetheart, I think so. And my first ever cash, okay, sorry guys, this is a transcript, so it's not going to be perfect, but she probably said something, my first ever cash meet, like maybe meet up in person, she was very nervous. So she's like, what do I say to them? What if there becomes a time where I pause or don't know what to say and we're just awkwardly standing there or whatever? But I got into the mode of getting better at it. When I saw the subs, I would imagine somebody I really, really hated, especially a man or someone that's done some wrong in the past. And it was just easier that way. And then when I realized not only was I humiliating them and doing something that made me feel good, them being humiliated was something that made them feel really good. So I was fulfilling something inside of them while doing something I had to learn how to do and learn how to come into. So it's something that, yes, I was intimidated, and a lot of people are intimidated, but it's one of those things that once you say the first word of humiliation, you just keep going and you can't stop. So it's like you get better at it. So I think it's interesting that it's like I said at the beginning, it's like she does like get turned on or like get off in a sense by doing this. Like it's not only the sub that has the kink and she's making money. Like she was nervous at first, intimidating, but then she genuinely got enjoyment out of it, just like Lily Phillips and all the sex workers that we talk about and that you see.
Yeah.
And then the interviewer asked, why do you think people have this kink? Something along those lines. And she talks about how it's the lack of power that they're having. So they're used to being in charge. And we talked about this in our sugar baby episode. These fucking sugar daddies are like CEOs, rich as fuck. And then they just want to, you know, whatever, like let loose, essentially. And she said, they come to me and none of that exists. Like they're not in charge. They're not calling the shots. She's like, I'm calling the shots. I make the schedule. I tell you when you need to be bowing to me or giving to me or sending to me. And for them, it's just like, wow, I'm really being told something by someone that A, is not only younger than me, but someone that is very dominant, and I might not be used to this. So I think they get off from the lack of control. Like, oh, I can't control what's going on right now. I can't tell them that they need to shut up and listen to me. I have to shut up and listen to me. So she kind of answered that in a way, because I think the common question is not like, why do you want to be a Findom? It's like, why would anyone want to be
a sub?
A fin sub, you know? So it's like, for her and her experiences, like that's what she's, you know, realized. A lot of it is about the power, wanting to relinquish power. Like that's a big part of
and that makes sense too, because I feel like for me, like I like to be submissive because I feel like in my job, like I do have to be dominant in certain ways. Like I'm like, we're doing the podcast, I'm working out, I live alone, I'm managing my own life. Like I want to relinquish my control to someone who's just gonna please me. Like that is like, it makes sense for anyone, you know? So I think for them, the kink, especially of someone who's super, super wealthy and maybe lonely or older and like misses that youth and wants to see their money go to something good or like whatever, like it just literally psychologically makes sense. You know?
Totally. And then she did get asked kind of about the hardships. And Marley talked about the constant judgment, stereotypes, having to really explain your work and having to explain, again, what we keep saying, that sex work is in fact
work. Bitch.
Okay?
Yep.
Seems obvious. And she's like, I'll be out at the bars and people are like, what do you do for work? And she's like, I'm someone that's always been so sure of myself that I'm not going to hide what I do, but I'll tell them I'm a dominatrix. And right away it's, oh, that's crazy. That's weird. You're not going to beat me right now, are you? And she's like, okay, like, why would I just start beating you at the bar? She's ultimately like, yes, it's getting those stereotypes and it's having to explain yourself and realize that your job just isn't a normal job. And as much as we try to normalize it, yes, we can say it's normal for us, but for other people, it will never be perceived as that. So it's just always having to find where we fit in or just feel like we are really fighting just to be heard. So
Yeah, and that, I mean, we got that even when we were strippers for the short amount of time that I was. I feel like you tell anyone you're a stripper and it's 1,000 questions and it's fetishizing it and it's they want to learn how to do it and it's all this stuff. And then it almost becomes like, okay, well, let me not tell anyone because I don't want to, one, them look down on me, and two, them fetishize it or ask all these questions. Like, let me just say I'm a barista, whatever. But it's like, but then if you don't do that, then you're like adding the stigma to it and like
living in your truth. Like, it doesn't feel good, you know?
Right.
Like, what if it's like, if you really want to tell people and you're not, like, that sucks. Like, if you want to keep it a secret and that makes you feel good, by all means.
Right.
But it's like when you kind of want to say, you want to talk about it, you want to talk about it like it's normal and you feel like you can't. Like, that's a very, like, not fun space to be in at all.
Yeah.
And it can be exhausting when you get the same fucking responses from people. And there was also this one part, I'm not going to read this, but like one of the like more extreme forms of like getting money is like, she's like talked about how she's actually had control over someone's like computer. Like, you know how you can get scammed? Like, this happened to me once.
Yeah,
it's
and
embarrassing.
Did it really?
I was like in high school. Nothing bad happened, but like this fucking person on the phone had my mouse and was like moving around on my computer. Like, I don't know. My friend happened to come in right at that time and was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like, I was very naive
Who are you
back
on
then.
the phone with? Like,
who
Omegle?
knows? Like, someone called me and was like, "There's something wrong." Like, I was paranoid. Anyways,
Whoa.
so one of the extreme levels of this kink is like people will control, like literally be like, let me get your IP address and I'm going to drain your account manually.
That's even like the documentary that you sent me, and Autumn sent it to me on accident, guys. But I was like, fuck it, I'm going to watch it anyway. And
I know,
one of the
you're
girls,
so good.
I was so down for it. And then I ended up going out, so it was a good thing you sent it to me when you did. But one of the girls, she was talking about how like some of their like things is they want to send like pictures of themselves and like whatever, and they're like, if I ever stop sending you money, send these pictures to my parents and tell my parents what I'm doing, or like blackmail me. Like, that was one of the things that they had. And so she has like blackmail for them, and that's, I think we're going to talk about it when we get into the pay pigs, but where there's like a little bit of a line, because like where are the check-ins and like safe words and like stuff like that too, because it's like, you know, part of this is their kink, their literal kink. Like the guy that I was texting and would FaceTime and voice memo, like he's like, oh, threaten to tell everybody, like to out me and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to tell everybody, da-da-da-da, but like, I'm not going to, and I would never do that to him actually. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like people know anyway.
Right,
like, at this
but
point,
it's like, have you communicated that verbally? No.
Right,
like, he's
exactly.
just lucky you're a good person.
Exactly. Like, if you, and especially if you're giving up like blackmail and you're like completely like relinquished,
like
you're becoming a slave.
I know, and like that's part of it. And it's like, I want to be like so all for that, but I want to be so all for that and like everyone to just like be safe for real, because like it's hard, and at the end of the day, like sex like is always associated with like drugs and like all that shit, which like I think is wrong, but it is, and it can be an addiction, and it's serious. Like I've someone that my first girlfriend that I ever dated had a close friend that had a sex addiction, and I had never known anyone that had one, and like she would tell me stories about how they would like be together, but he was like a sex addict and they couldn't hook up, and like it was really hard, and it's just like I can't even imagine. So like I don't know, it just
and I feel like that's even more the reason that like this needs to be seen as work and all that stuff, because there should be contracts in place. There should be like there should be contracts, there should be like safe words, like all that stuff, but it's like also, when you look at any other business in America, like McDonald's or something, if someone's like addicted to McDonald's and gets obese and gets diabetes and heart disease or something like that, like, can you sue McDonald's for that? Like, I don't know. Like, it's up to the person and the business to a certain extent, and that's also capitalism. So it's like, it's these layers of things where it's like, I mean, I think it's up to how you conduct business and how you want to go about things. And also, like, it is the responsibility of the sub also to know if you have an addiction, where to draw the line.
And limits.
Yeah.
Like, before you get into, again, this is in the BDSM space. Like, this shit can get fucking serious. So, like, it is your responsibility to know what the fuck you're doing and protect yourself. So, I guess Marley also has, like, an OnlyFans where she will post, like, photos of herself, like sexual innuendo type photos and things like that as well. And so she touches on the male gaze a little bit. And she says, when a lot of people look at my content on OnlyFans, my content is under the male gaze, but it's not for the male gaze, if that makes any sense. So my content is not me trying to convince you to touch me or be all over me, or I want you, or I'm whatever they might say, or I'm horny, or what a lot of people might do. My content is more so of the fact, look at me, you'll never be able to touch me. You'll never be able to even be in the same room as me. You're a loser. It's still me humiliating, but in a way of being sensual with it. So we see those blinds, all of that. And then the last thing she talks about I thought was really interesting was like kind of like rates, essentially like money. Like I don't really care as much about that, but also she talked about mental health. So she said basically her rates are decided upon how much she's putting into it physically or mentally. Like when you're, and with any business, you're an independent, like you have to, how much time is this taking me? Like,
right.
You know, that's what it's based on. She's like, so if I'm whipping someone, that's more physical, like that's more physical energy and like things like that. And she said, if it's ever to a point where you're doing something and you're thinking, oh my God, this is emotionally doing so much for me or mentally, or I had to do so much to get prepared for this. And as doms, we spend a lot of money on our outfits. Leather and latex is not cheap. We spend a lot of money on our outfits, self-care of our outfits, of our tools. A lot of these tools are handmade. A lot of them are real leather and wood and things of that nature. So that's how I really determine my rates, how much energy are being put into what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think that does make sense because it's like, if she's putting more psychological or like mental energy into like, okay, like deep breath, meditate, like I need to prepare to dominate and psychologically manipulate and like degrade this person this way because this is outside of what I would normally do. Like in my normal everyday life, I would see this as bullying, harassment, blah, blah, blah. Like, or I need to, not just the outfits and all that stuff that she's talking about, but the like psychological, like mental health thing as well, because it can be taxing on her, just like we see Lily Phillips with the 100 guys. Like that, this campaign is going to make her a shit ton of money, and it has. It's skyrocketed her name to fucking fame. But was it exhausting? Was it a lot of labor? Yes, of fucking course. That's why the dollar sign is going to be so big, and same with the 1,000. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, when you're, it makes sense that if they're going to go that extra mile to like, you know, have to prepare for this marathon or whatever it is, that they would charge a little bit more than that versus just a casual foot picture and like a voice memo.
So now we're going to transition into the Fin subs, otherwise known as pay pigs, cash pigs, like all that sort of shit. So ABC did an interview with an anonymous pay pig and basically was like, the best thing about it for me is that it's so regular. Like she has a night out with the girls, the message comes through to buy them a round of drinks, and it's so exciting. And then I get degraded after that and I give her the money. It's all just so fun. So like enjoying the kink. And the interviewer asked, what are your boundaries? And the pay pig said, the anonymous person, we do have a limit on how much I can give her per week. That gets tallied and we don't go past that. Some weeks we reach that. My boundaries are my amount I send her per week. We are open and honest about how much I get paid and how much I need to survive and save, and she gets the rest. Love that. Love that. And then they asked, how do you navigate this fetish if you have long-term or casual partners? And they said long-term partnerships are hard because it's not something you can really do honestly and realistically in a relationship from his point from their point of perspective. We don't know that it's a man, Autumn.
Right.
They said it's a form of cheating as you are getting sexual pleasure from it. I haven't really thought about the long term yet, but it's something I know I can't do forever with the life goals I have unless I find a partner who's into it. But what's mine is there ultimately and doesn't have the same to touch it. One person's perspective. And then the last question, the interviewer said, what about your ethics and morals? What are your thoughts on people who think you're being exploited? And they said, I don't really listen to them. My mistress doesn't have to talk about me or degrade me, and she is taking time out of her life to do so and should be rewarded in some way, which is true. Like, she's working.
Yeah.
It's like going to work. If you didn't get paid, you wouldn't do it.
I love, they see most of the subs see it as work.
Exactly. Because they're engaging in it. They are just as much in the fucking room. Like, they play just as much of a role in this.
Yeah.
They said, I don't have to pay if I don't want to or can't. There's no blackmail or anything like that involved. It's just that I'm going to get the verbal degradation I want because she doesn't want to have to work for free. So now I found a Reddit that is called Pay Pigs Support Group. So a lot of Fin subs are in this Reddit posting about their hardships and seeking community. And it seemed like, you know, a safe space. Like, there was it was a very active Reddit, like a lot of people posting. And so a lot of it is people saying why they left this sort of world, like it wasn't serving them anymore. Someone said, I left my goddess again last month because I thought I could do better, change my life around, but I constantly think about her. Should I go crying back to her again or just leave? I wasn't with her for long, but she's got a good hold on me. Someone said, when she crushes your laughable fantasies, quote, you're a pathetic cuck pay pig that I use for money and amusement. 150 cents in 2.5 years, $33,000 and another $20,000 in gifts. Thinking the adoration and devotion has worked you into her heart. You're a pathetic cuck pay pig that I use for money and amusement. So this is like maybe someone that kind of caught feelings, didn't see it as much as work, and was kind of like, you know what I mean? But it's also like...
Wait. Let me read it again because I'm confused.
Sorry.
You're pathetic? Okay, so I see. So kind of like they believed in a false sense. Kind of like when you're in a situationship with a guy that says that he's saying he's not going to commit and then he doesn't commit and you're fucking shocked. Like, you know, like some people are naive on the submissive side of things as well. And that's what this person seems like. It's like, oh shit, like I need to believe what my goddess has been saying this entire fucking time.
I know. And also, like, you can get hurt for sure emotionally in these relationships if you're not seeing it as the work and the transactional nature that it is. And, like, it's not your fault, but, like, that is, like, a risk, as they say. Like, you can get hurt for sure. I know that I definitely broke some hearts in the strip club. Hey. So, another person posted on Reddit kind of saying, like, day 2, like, I'm still here in this Reddit, but I'm not doing Findom anymore. And was basically just telling people, remember, like, you can quit if you want. Like, start a new hobby. Like, take a deep breath. Like, this doesn't have to be the life you choose anymore if it's not serving you. And just, like, having, you know, he's like, right now it is morning and I'm drinking some hot tea and eating an everything bagel. Like, because addiction can be so real. It's like you don't know how to, like, enjoy the little things anymore. And, like, this person's realizing, like, Findom just, like, wasn't for him anymore.
Yeah, and those groups are helpful. Like, I've looked at a cigarette addiction Reddit thread, and honestly, it helped me acknowledge that I am addicted, because duh, bitch, I'm fucking addicted. But, like, reading other people's stories and, like, preparing myself for quitting, which, like, by the time you guys are watching this, I'm quitting cigarettes. I'm going on nicotine patches. I'm really trying to quit in 2025. This is the last episode, hopefully, that you see me smoking a cigarette in. But yeah, like it's an addiction like anything else. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, like, you need that support group, mental health group, all that. It doesn't mean to demonize the rest of Findom because it can be done ethically. But if you have a problem, it's good to talk to other people like they are doing.
Exactly. Like, sex work, like, we never said it can't be extreme. And it was, like, we definitely never said it was easy. Like, addiction is possible with all sorts of things. And it, you know, can happen. It's important to take care of yourself. This next Reddit I really found interesting. So this person is basically questioning, like, is this my sexuality? Because, like, all I can get off to is, like, Findom and, like, being a fin sub. And, like, I've literally been like, is CNC my sexuality? Like, type shit. Yep. So, like, I really was like, okay. So this person said, I've got to a point where literally the only thing that turns me on is the thought of being financially used by women. At this point, I'm completely unable to view any women as a potential romantic partner or someone to go on dates with or anything like that. I look at women and think, I want to carry her shopping bags. Am I the only one who's like this? It's kind of messed up, and I don't know how to rewire myself. Someone said, it's not your sexuality. We work in patterns. You have conditioned your mind to release dopamine and other arousal hormones in association with these things. You can remove that dopamine trigger just as you put it there. I'd start with a dopamine detox, 2 weeks, no social media, no phone, unless you really need to call someone. Again, go out for a walk, get outside in the physical world. They said you can remove that dopamine link with Findom just as you placed it there in the first place. The brain is a magnificent organ and can adapt to anything. So make it adapt to something else, to normal sexuality and normal contact with life, world, people, normal being in quotes. And I just think, yeah, because, like, as much as I love CNC, like, I don't want to get to a point where, like, that really is the only thing that can get me off. So it's not like I never want to do CNC again, but it's like I do want to ground myself in, like, realizing that it's like, yeah, I put that dopamine hit here. I'm a human being. Like, I am capable of, like, getting dopamine hits with other forms of sexual activity. I'm not, like, drowning in a CNC dungeon for eternity.
Yeah, and it's opening yourself up to other experiences, because I feel the same way. Like, all of my sexual fantasies, like, recently had been about, like, being degraded and being, like, beyond just kink.
Like, it's kind of like,
it was experiences. And then I fucked someone that I had very, like, wholesome sex with, and I was like, the first time I liked it, but I was kind of like, okay, like, something's missing. But then I fucked them, like, a couple more times, and I feel like it's like, I'm like, oh, I'm into this again. So I feel like it's also, like, even though you feel like, you know, like, oh, like, Findom is my only thing, like, open yourself up to those other possibilities. And that's what worked with me, because honestly, like, I still, when I masturbate, I feel like it's generally the super bad, degrading, like, stuff to a point. But I'm realizing it's not the only option. I'm mixing some other stuff in there, like, you know?
Yeah, I don't want to put this on myself or, like, jinx it or anything, but I genuinely feel like the next time I have, like, any sort of, like, emotional, wholesome sex, like, I'm going to break down crying, like, for sure.
And that there's nothing wrong with that,
with that. I know. It's fine, guys. But, like, the kink shit is, like, I'm just like, yes. Like, I'm in it. Like, I'm fucking laser, bitch. But, like, the wholesome shit, too vulnerable. Okay. So the last thread we're going to talk about is called, Would You Be a Pay Pig If You Had Other Options? Is this really a kink or desperation? Someone said, I'm a virgin. Never kissed a girl. Only been touched by one a few times. That's not funny. Like, it's just sad. Like, only be touched by one. Like, damn.
I mean, they'd probably get hard to you laughing, but go ahead.
Okay. Are they in the room right now?
Maybe. If you're here, we welcome you.
Okay. I've sent several $1,000s to a few women over the last few months, and I've enjoyed it. I know I could never date any of them for real due to the way I look and act. Oh, see, that's not funny. I'm grateful this exists and all, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have my next dynamic set up with this one girl soon. I'd much rather date these girls I've sent to, but being friend-zoned by them and taken advantage financially is the next best thing.
Yes, yeah.
Does anyone here have options with different women and chooses to do this as a kink, or are you all okay?
Because this reminds me of, like,
got
incels
really dark.
To a point.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
No,
but
it reminds me of the incels that, like, go to Andrew Tate for answers, and they're, like, maybe good people, like Loveless groups. Yeah. Remember? That's really sad, Fiji. It's the next best thing to be financially
and that's I feel like it's like how And it's so hard, right? Because I feel like both of us, we have these like degrading, weird kinks to a point, and like we're still on our journey to understanding the source of those kinks and where like the line is between healthy and unhealthy. And it seems like it's like that with this person, because it's like, if you're someone who is still a virgin, who has never been touched enough by a woman, like whatever, and you don't believe in that, like your ability to attain that, like it would make sense for that to be your kink because it fills that psychological gap of your trauma. But there's a point in which that can be your kink, but you want to evolve out of just being in a trauma brain. You know what I'm saying? Because like even how we talked about like dark romance and stuff like that, it's like, it's one thing if you're reading these novels from the perspective of like, this is entertainment, this is fantasy, versus if you're engaging in it as like, this is what I want my reality to be. So I feel like that's where this person is. It's like, it makes sense. You got into it because you're like, I cannot access women unless I do this. And it became a kink, but you also need to evolve out of that. Like it can still be a kink, but it can't be the only source of dating and love.
Exactly, because it'll consume you. And do you think like for like a lot of women, for example, like one of the top fantasies is like a trigger warning rape fantasy, because like men like have oppressed women like that for centuries and times. And like now it's like men are kind of oppressed because they're disposable and just good for money. So like that turns them on the same way like maybe rape turns us on type shit. Kind of.
Yeah.
Like I'm just thinking of that now. But someone commented under this thread and said, I'm fairly attractive and I've had my share of hookups and long-term relationships, but it's much harder to find dominant girls who enjoy humiliation IRL. Interesting. So this person's like, it's easier to find a girlfriend for me than it is to find a Findom. Someone said, I want to take one of Sub's virginity, LOL. What do you mean no options? My partner and I are poly, into cucking, but also forced bi, so just waiting for him to get to saving. I get what you mean, but dang, not every dom is just for cash. BDSM is cute. So this is like a little bit confusing, but I feel like this person is like, they took what this person said and is like, what do you mean, like, no options? Because they're saying, like, I can't separate it. And this person's like, well, I'm in a poly couple and, like, in a Findom relationship and thriving. So, like, it's a little harsh, but, like, I think that's what they mean.
But, like, that TikTok, too, of that woman that found that guy, and she's like, he's just into Findom. Like, you know, so it's like...
Right.
But I feel like with this person, it seems like the source of they're only getting into Findom because they can't find anyone else, like, outside. Right. You know, like, the kink became... It's a little different because I feel like you could find someone with a Findom kink to date. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And so more of the comments just kind of reiterate this. Like they're kind of like, I've had subs with wives and kids that just look for escape. People have like, I've had many attractive subs who have a big dick and a good job. They just really like to please women and spoil them. So like a lot of people are kind of counteracting it to an extent. But honestly, just the original thread, like it did kind of like break my heart in a way. And I was going to do this poll later, but I kind of want to do it now.
Yeah.
So we asked you guys, what do you think about using men for money when it's not specifically Findom or any type of sex work? And the majority, 40%, said reparations are a good thing, meaning like men should pay women in reparations. 35% said, I think it's wrong to use men for money. 20% said using men for only money is sex work. Idiot. No, just kidding.
Duh.
And then 5% said all men are good for right now, which is good. That's only like one person. Yeah. And when it comes to reparations, y'all, I just feel like the only reparations I can get behind is like to people of color. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't. And I would say more
specifically Black Americans that have been enslaved in this country. I don't think, I think that's like the most specific one. So it's like, if it's a white man with a Black woman, that's reparations. But we talked about this in Sprinkle. It's like, all right, reparations is a big word.
What does that even really mean?
Yeah.
Because reparations would be a lot better with actual systemic change. So how do we get to that? Because $20 here and there at the end of the day, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a bad thing.
Zooming out, reparations should come from the government and the system and not from the individual man that was born a couple decades ago. You know, like that, it doesn't add up.
Yeah. I put that in to trick you guys, and you guys fell for it.
Yep.
That was the winner. But I do think, like, I think it's wrong to use men for money as, like, not clear enough. Like, I think it's fine if it's in a kink space or whatever. And, like, honestly, if you just want to be a bad bitch, like, honestly, I don't really give a fuck. But I think if every woman is just using men for money, then we're going to be in a deep fucking problem.
Right.
But, like, I'm not going to be, like, a crank about it. Like, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
if you go to a bar and you're using a man to buy you a drink, like, it's fine.
Right.
We're playing
like,
the
I
game.
do that.
We're out here, like, whatever. But if you're going on Hinge to go on dates with people when you're saying that you're looking for a long-term relationship and that's what you're doing, like then you're doing sex work, and you should be saying you're doing sex work versus you're in the dating pool. Like, that's different.
And live your life and get that bag immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So lastly, we've talked about in this episode the rise in sex work counselors. There is a Findom known as, I'm sorry if I butcher it, guys, Yevgenia, who is a 28-year-old born in Belarus and now living in Canada. She is a financial dom, and she also has a business where she teaches others to do it. So basically, she's saying, like, over the last year, consulting has become a bigger and bigger part of her income. Like, business is booming. Bitches want to get on Findom, #. Okay, so it's working for her. However, several sex workers have, quote, vocally been against my services and webinars, she confides. Currently based in Canada, she also receives criticism from Megan Murphy, who's the editor and founder of popular Canadian website Feminist Current. She's a white woman. I looked it up. Quote, focusing on the minority of women in the West who choose prostitution and erasing the majority of women who do not but have no other choice is unethical, Murphy tells Rolling Stone. She believes that Yevgeniena's business feeds into the glamorization and whitewashing of prostitution by erasing the reality of women who enter the industry in order to survive. And the article says, yet sex work is work. Why shouldn't there be someone telling you how to do it better? Okay. The article says sex work is a lot of work, much of which isn't sex or sexy. The most basic class Yevgenia teaches covers everything from brand and character creation to money management and how to file taxes as a sex worker. Like, I don't know. I didn't look that much into her, but that sounds pretty damn good to me. Like,
just like the other
creation?
TikToker that was talking about the financial shit, like she lost a bunch of money, this is how you save. Like, that's helpful. Yeah.
Exactly. Yevgenia says, to me, my consults are customized business plans. The results speak for themselves. Meaning, like, all the people loving her class, like, that's enough for her to be like, success. You're wrong.
Yep.
Like, it's working. So Feminist Current Murphy doesn't see this as a good thing. She says, it seems that Yevgenia has managed to make a cozy profit off of the sex industry by becoming a sex work consultant. Murphy says, approaching the sex industry through a socialist and radical feminist lens, Murphy believes that promoting sex work as a personal choice made by individual women is harmful. And this is where she's fucking ass backwards, bitch. Basically, this bitch's argument is like, you, like, being empowered and, like, making the choice to do this and, like,
wrong.
teaching others that are making the choice is wrong. Because
privilege.
Back in the day, like, prostitutes were forced into it, and that's
in other
erasing all of their
countries
history.
and whatever. Yeah, and it's like, yes. Sex trafficking is a big issue, and forced sex work is a big issue globally. Sometimes, I'm not to say it's not a big issue, but I will caveat that with sometimes I think we make it a bigger issue by ignoring the fact that there is a good portion of women that choose to do this work. Not to say it's not a big issue, it is. But
both things can be true.
I hate this argument so much, and I hate it being passed off as feminism, but keep going.
Right. And it just gets worse. Like, she's like, this strikes me as yet another way to capitalize on women's oppression and objectification.
God.
Like, I know. horrible. And the article says, but is it better to not share strategy information with other women? Nearly a third of the registrations for Yevgena's last webinar were scholarship spots paid for by established sex workers looking to help those new to the field. And when she put a call out on Twitter asking for any negative feedback, she got lots of replies, all of them enthusiastic declarations of love for her classes. So it seems like the article was like on team Yevgenia and was kind of like, this bitch Megan's crazy. But like, this is the reality of the situation, and it's infuriating, and we've talked about it over and over again. But like, it's just exhausting. And this person thinks she's pro sex work. Like, she's like,
she thinks
you're
she's
erasing
feminist.
the history, right?
No, I don't think she thinks she's pro sex work. I think she thinks she's pro feminist and anything. Right. Because it reminds me of that TikTok that I sent you of the bitch that was talking about Lily Phillips, and that shit had like 30K plus likes on TikTok, and she was like, this is not feminism. Like, until we can acknowledge that sex work is not feminist because it's like, exploiting
it's
women.
A job.
Like, I fucking beg you, stupid, fake feminist ass bitches, to read anything of like dense feminist fucking text, and also let you not look in the mirror and acknowledge the fucking misogyny in what you are saying. You are saying that like this work that this woman is doing by like using her body and her charismaticness and her business like mindedness to create a bit, you're looking at that as like appealing to men. Like, that is so misogynistic. That's what I don't understand. Like,
I know. It's infuriating.
Fuck Murphy.
Like, nothing to add, bro. Like, what you said was fucking perfect. But I do want to close us on a more positive note, okay? So our friends from Psychology Today, OG source for So Wet, So Dry, bitch, they talk about sex work and they say, it's easy to jump to judgment about these sorts of consensual games, but one must realize that we don't do the same when we watch cage fighters beat each other to a bloody pulp, something they mutually consented to do, even though it's possible that one might emerge from these fights unconscious with brain damage or even dead.
And may I add, is it because we view that as masculine?
Exactly. So that's fine. Let's fucking kill each other.
Right.
Whatever has driven them to want to do this is rarely questioned. Like, no one ever questions why you want to do that.
The UFC is huge. Fucking Jake Paul, Logan Paul, whichever the fucking, and Mike Tyson, that was huge. Like bye.
People are feral. But if two people agree to do something kinky and sexually oriented, such as Findom, our tendency is to immediately judge and shame them. It's probably time, or even past time, for us to grow up, get real, and accept that as humans, we have countless avenues of sexual expression that we may never understand and therefore cannot judge.
Period.
So that's it.
All right, guys, so we've made it to the end of the episode where we wrap up with what we're so wet, so dry, and still a little bit confused about the topic, because it's okay to still be confused, and I will go first. I am definitely so wet about just learning more about Findom in general, because I feel like I've seen it like a lot on TikTok, the hashtags, like I said, I even use some, and like I was a little confused about it because I've done the degradation stuff and gotten paid from it. We've both stripped. Like, I didn't quite know exactly the extent of the kink, but I feel like I understand it more now, and especially looking at it as something that's not always like even really that sexual, you know, like that's something that I learned like in this episode. So I love that. I also love Ceechynna. Like, bro, like she is like #1 on my fucking playlist right now. I love what she's doing. I want people to think about her more critically. So I love that. And then also I think like I love how much better we've been at just looking at the nuance of things. Like, that was always our goal, but I feel like as we like build these episodes and talk about these different topics and bring different things into it, like talking about the nuances of addiction and like how you can still have this kink and you don't have to label the whole thing as bad just because like some people can get addicted, and the importance of boundaries and ethics and like all of that. And then also like sex work is looked at as bad and this isn't seen as sex work. Like, I love that we come at it from all these different angles. So like I'm proud of us for that, and also like how much we've grown. And I also like that we did get some stories from listeners for this one, like about like their experiences and what and friends that they have. That's always cool too. But yeah, overall wet.
Even though they flopped in the polls.
In the polls, the polls we got work to do. But I get it because honestly, before doing this episode, Autumn and I were a little bit like, we were probably the same, like, you know.
I would have been like, it makes me sad, which like it's not a bad thing that it makes you sad. Like it's just something to think about. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think like the biggest thing I learned too is like that it's a communicative, psychological art form, and it's a lot of work on like building the storylines and creating the character and like the certain things you're degrading, and just us realizing like how hard it is to even sext, and like these people are like having conversations for years and days, and like it's crazy, and like new creative ways to get money and be fulfilled in that way. And I'm always wet anytime we get to like hear from sex workers or like retired sex workers like Ceechynna. Like that's always the best part for me. Yeah. Like hearing from women and also the men, like the alpha kings was like very interesting. Like it was, I'm glad I found it. Like it was like a new type of representation.
Because those type of guys you would generally pin as like, oh, they're Trump supporters, they're conservative, but this might be the path into what makes them liberal.
And they like wanted to do the documentary, like they're like out and proud about it to a way, even though they like minor homophobia comment, but yeah, other than that, but yeah, I think I definitely learned a lot too, and overall super wet.
Yeah. For dry, definitely, I mean, I'm dry about the addiction side of things because I think that's scary. I mean, I'm someone who's struggled with addiction in the past, so like I get it. But I also know, as someone who is an addict and has addictive tendencies and like certain stuff, like how much of the responsibility for overcoming that addiction is on yourself. And so I think like that is really important, and it becomes really dangerous territory when we start to blame the sex workers. Not that we shouldn't hold them accountable to ethics. I think ethics are huge and should be applied in all industries. I think that's a thing, but the addiction stuff does make me sad. And I'm rooting for anyone who was a part of Findom who's like working on, you know, getting out of it because it did do a detriment to you. I think there's a healthy way that you could balance it, but if you're not there yet, like that's fine too. I think I'm also definitely dry about that fake feminist ass bitch and that whole fucking conversation that's happening with Lily Phillips and everything else. It's like, I'm just so dry about. And even with Ceechynna to an extent, like the people talking, I think that is a lot more innocent because it's just an omission. Like they're just like missing that from the conversation versus an intentional, like, you're not a feminist sort of thing. They're calling her a feminist, but they're ignoring the sex worker angle. But I think like it is hard to consider the various aspects and the various intersections of everything. But like for someone to claim to be a feminist and to be running a feminist blog, news outlet, like whatever, you are incredibly dangerous when you are spreading that kind of information. And it reminds me of white feminism and all of that sort of stuff. When we become like exclusive, it has terrible effects, and it gives people who aren't feminists reasons to hate on sex workers, and it's fucking so dry. So dry.
So fucking dry. And yeah, the support group for Finn subs, like some of that was a little bit sad in there, like reminiscent of like the incels that like start out as like actual like innocent human beings, like obviously not the fucking horrible incels, like whatever, that like turn into literal monsters on planet Earth and are very hateful, whatever. Like that was sad. And I think just like the TikTok era of like everyone being like, it's so easy to make money, like just fucking step 1, 2, and 3, bitch, and you're gonna have $15,000 in no time. It's just, it does not work like that at all. And obviously, I feel like there is definitely the feminists that are not pro-sex work are very fucking loud. Like they're fucking screaming because they think it goes against everything with feminism. It objectifies us even more. But literally the most simple response to them is like, you're not looking at this like a job, and it's literally called sex work. And it like, they should feel stupid. Like I just like don't fucking understand.
And they're being like, misogynistic. Like
you're claiming that you're something, you're objectifying women, but it's like you're not caring about all women in all different professions. Like, it's like I feel stupid trying to like defend that because how the fuck
it's such a stupid,
yeah, it's just exhausting, but yes.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, and for confused, I feel like kind of to echo what you said, like a little bit about the trendingness, like the hashtags, like all of that, like all of the courses. Again, it's like we feel two ways about it. We want there to be education, but we also, you know, it's a saturated market. How many people are scamming? How many people are preying upon people and crossing the line of sex trafficking as well? And so, like, I think it's just like, you know, I hope if you're someone that listens to us, like, and you're considering it, definitely do your research before you pay for a course or anything like that. Like, please do your research, like media literacy. Don't just trust any TikTok you come across. Because especially if you're watching our TikToks or our stuff, you're probably more likely to get recommended some of this stuff as well. So that's definitely something to pay attention to. Also for confused, like I said it before, I won't harp on it too much, but I feel like this is an ongoing conversation post-gender wars too. It's just the capitalism aspect of it. I don't know how that plays in. I don't know. Like, I don't want to blame the sex workers when we have way bigger problems with these corporations, but like it's something I feel like we're going to keep talking about in the next year.
Yeah.
I think also the ethics of stuff. Like, I know I didn't practice the best ethics when I was a stripper, and it's hard, right? Because you're your own business owner, your own freelancer. You have to figure out your ethics. You're managing a bunch of different people, different personalities, different trauma points, different kinks, different degradation fantasies, like whatever. But I think as much as we can educate more the need for ethics within sex work, because it's not just, I don't think we should get to a place where it's all about just scamming and reinforcing that capitalist system and all of that. So I feel like ethics are the solution to that in a sense, but that's something we can explore more later. And the last thing is just how the fuck to deal with the outrage and these feminists. Like, because the predominant narrative is very much around sex work, that it's not feminist, that people should not be a part of it and all of that. And every time I see a fucking video, fucking comment, I just get so pissed. And same when it's someone who's trying to like appropriate Findom and become a sex worker but hate on other sex workers. And I know we do it in this platform, but if you're at the end of the episode and you've been listening for this long, I would assume you have an open mind and you agree with us to an extent, or you're broadening your horizons, which is even better. But I wonder what the path is in the future. Is it just more of us seeing sex workers in mainstream media for us to break that down, that it is work? I think Lily Phillips is doing a lot for that, but the backlash she's getting, I'm like, bro, I don't know. So that is very confusing to me.
Yeah,
and
like that's definitely affecting her for sure. Like that's really fucking hard when she's
like the martyr. Like she's like,
I know, right?
Yeah,
now, she is, and I think like I'm confused too because it's like in sex work, it's like a lot of times, unfortunately, like boundaries are discovered when boundaries are crossed. Like a lot of times you might not know what your boundaries are, so. That's another part of like kink play, and like they don't really talk about as much as
that's
like
a good quote, bitch. Boundaries are discovered when boundaries are crossed.
Yeah,
that's a really good quote, guys.
Thank you. Because I'm just like thinking about it for myself. Like I discovered that I don't want to be bitten at all, whether it's gentle or hard, when I got my shit rocked by a fucking vampire lesbian. Like I'm just like. No, like biting on the inner thighs, no. Chomping, no. So it's like that is hard, and it's just like again, like I feel like the submissive role in most BDSM, like the dominant, of course, has effects too, like just as much, like mentally, physically. But being a sub is hard. Being humiliated is hard, even if it's a kink. You don't want to be humiliated in real life, and if you're being humiliated, degraded a lot, it will get to you a little bit. And so you have to have those boundaries and like the ethics, what you're talking about.
Yeah, especially when like the mouse thing, when you give up that level and the threatening with the photos and all of that, like even more the reason with this specific kink too.
Right. No, totally. I'm still thinking about the boundaries thing. Like, should that be like a tattoo?
That's a good fucking goal, bitch. And when you become that intimacy coordinator, like, I feel like that's a good thing to
Yeah, promote. That could be like my slogan.
That's your Goodreads quote. Boundaries are discovered when boundaries are crossed. So it's important to critically think beforehand. Yeah, no.
I honestly think I'm going to leave it at that, guys. That was kind of 8. So we both fucking got a lot from this episode, but most importantly, we hope you guys did too. So please let us know in the comments below on YouTube. Sometimes we get listeners DM us on Instagram at SoWetSoDry, so you can always DM us too. Make sure you're following so you can participate in our weekly polls for upcoming episodes. Please subscribe on YouTube. We just hit 800 and we are so happy and so thankful. Only 200 away to 1,000. So keep subscribing. You can follow on Spotify, like the video, and definitely give us a rating if you have the time and the heart. You can do Spotify, Amazon, and also write us a little couple word review, star rating on Apple to let us know if you do that.
Yes, and we do also have listener support. It's 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 a month through Spotify. It is in the bottom of the description of every single episode, no matter where you guys are listening. Like we said in this episode, that payment helps us pay for things like Adobe and getting New Yorker subscriptions, New York Times subscriptions, all of those things that make the quality of our episodes better with better research. So please, please, please do that. We love you guys so, so much, and we will catch you in the next episode. Bye. Bye. Did you know that the roots of the manosphere actually started in the feminist movement? Back in the 1970s, there was the men's liberation movement, which was coincided with the feminist movement. The men's liberation movement was all about rejecting gender roles. They argued that they were seen as success objects and that patriarchy imprisoned them to aggression and emotional constipation. Pretty much, they also believed that the codes of patriarchy and toxic masculinity prevented them from being their full selves, just like women. So there was this guy named Warren Farrell, who was one of the leaders of this men's liberation movement alongside feminists, and he was actually really good friends with Gloria Steinem. Here's this picture of them together. In the early 90s, Warren Farrell got fed up. He had been going on all of these feminist talks alongside women, but he didn't believe that women were seeing his issues as a man. So he wrote this book called The Myth of Male Power, in which he pretty much just said that he got really good at saying what women wanted to hear, but that wasn't the truth. In actuality, men were oppressed by women. The myth of male power, he argues that men are oppressed in glass cellars instead of glass ceilings, such as the war machine, dangerous profession, suicide, false rape accusations, and that women actually have more economic power, and that women actually have more power in whole. This is obviously a little insane, but the beginning of his ideas for the book were rooted in feminism. Feminists did argue that men were imprisoned in these glass cellars of masculinity where they were seen as disposable, held back from expressing their true emotional selves. But he took it to a whole nother level when he decided to blame women. Around 2008, when the blogging era was really thriving, this guy named Paul Elam, which is male backwards, but that's his actual last name, read Warren Farrell's The Myth of Male Power and was inspired. So he started this blog called A Voice for Men. A Voice for Men had a bunch of different writers under the men's human rights movement. They argued that they were nonviolent and didn't hate feminists, but a lot of their articles blamed women for pretty much everything. On this blog, red pill theories really started to take off, and then you get the incels, men going their own way, and MRAs, or men's rights activists. There we move into characters like Gary Vee, Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate, and everything just snowballs. So check out the link in my bio for